Chapter 2180. God's Punishment Break. After breaking through to the peak of the Nihility God realm, Yi Chunfeng's physical strength had increased to 150 trillion jin. He let out a roar, and with the amplification of the Hong Meng blood, he blasted out a punch that could destroy the universe. He broke the god's punishment that was descending from the sky and blasted the rapidly revolving calamity cloud apart. This is our chance. The moment the calamity cloud dispersed, the white tiger demon god and the black tortoise god both transformed into their strongest battle forms. They wielded their strongest nihility god weapons and attacked Yi Chunfeng. They wanted to kill him while he was at his weakest. You're courting death. Although Yi Chunfeng had just survived the god's punishment and his body was extremely weak, it would not be easy for the white tiger demon god and the black tortoise god to kill him. With a thought, the creation sword soul flew out of Yi Chunfeng's sea of soul. It intertwined with the power of creation and slashed at the two demon gods. I'll block it. As the sword spirit of creation attacked, the black tortoise god's huge body exploded with nearly 100 billion pounds of power. He summoned his natal black tortoise armor and placed it in front of him to block the attack of the sword spirit of creation. The white tiger demon god made use of the opportunity when the black tortoise god was defending with all his strength to leap up high. He created a lifelike white tiger shadow that was like a divine stone falling to the ground. He launched a fatal attack at Yi Chunfeng. Yi Chunfeng did not dodge the attack of the white tiger. He raised his strength to the maximum and used his own flesh and blood to meet it head-on. He slammed heavily into the white tiger's shadow. Boom! The two powerful forces collided. Yi Chunfeng's injuries worsened, but the white tiger's shadow was shattered by Yi Chunfeng's all-out attack. Danger! The moment Yi Chunfeng smashed the white tiger's shadow with his strongest strength, the God-Eater brain, which was rapidly deducing, sensed danger. An unimaginable sword radiance pierced through the sky. At a speed that was several hundred times faster than the speed of light, the sword pierced towards Yi Chunfeng's head. At this critical moment, Yi Chunfeng opened up his two domains and used the power of his two domains to block the sword. However, the power of this sword was too great, and Yi Chunfeng was heavily injured. The power of the two domains that he had opened up was greatly reduced, and the sword pierced through them like a hot knife through butter. Pooh! Unable to dodge in time, Yi Chunfeng was stabbed in the chest by the sword. However, when the sword pierced through his body, damaging his life spirit and cultivation foundation, the Chaos Dharma idol unleashed a powerful burst of chaotic force, forcing the black sword to retreat from Yi Chunfeng's chest. Azura! Yi Chunfeng immediately guessed that this person should be the leader of the Godly Kill Assassin organization, the Killing God, as he watched his entire body melt into space. Who is controlling the Godslay Assassin organization? Why are they targeting me? Seeing the sudden appearance of the Azura, Yi Chunfeng had an illusion that he knew the real leader of the Godslay Assassin organization. Otherwise, he would not have been targeted by the Godslay Assassin organization when he had no enmity with them. Yi Chunfeng, today is the day you die. The white tiger demon god did not expect that there was still someone hiding in the dark who wanted to kill Yi Chunfeng. With a roar, he slashed at Yi Chunfeng with a huge saber, determined to kill him. Humph, you want to kill me? You are still too weak. At this critical moment, Yi Chunfeng hid in the universe mirror and appeared in a space where time flowed 50 times faster. Then, he took out the life origin spirit pearl and swallowed it. In this space where time flowed 50 times faster, he quickly repaired his severely damaged body and healed his injuries. Come out for me! The black tortoise god roared and threw a punch at the universe mirror that was hidden in the void. Yi Chunfeng added multiple layers of defense to the universe mirror, but it still could not withstand the black tortoise god's punch. Ka. A series of shattering sounds were heard. The universe mirror was shattered by the black tortoise god's punch. Whoosh! After the universe mirror shattered, Yi Chunfeng flew out of the universe mirror at an extremely fast speed and fled into the distance. Where do you think you are going? The white tiger demon deity opened its bloody mouth and spat out a lightning-like demonic light. It attacked Yi Chunfeng, who was flying through the air, and hit him. Bam! Yi Chunfeng's body shattered and he fell heavily into the distance, no longer breathing. Dead. The white tiger demon god and the black tortoise god exchanged glances. They could not believe that Yi Chunfeng had died so easily. But in the next moment, another Yi Chunfeng flew out of the universe mirror and fled into the distance at an extremely fast speed. In less than 5 breaths, this Yi Chunfeng was killed again. Immediately after, a third Yi Chunfeng appeared. Swish! Just as Yi Chunfeng created his mirror image to stall for time, Slaying God wielded the Godslayer sword and stabbed at the universe mirror that was hidden in the void. The sword pierced through the universe mirror and stabbed at Yi Chunfeng, who was hiding in the core space of the universe mirror. Divine Wood of Time, defend! At the critical moment, Yi Chunfeng controlled the Divine Wood of Time to block in front of him, blocking the fatal attack of the Godslayer sword. Attack this spatial treasure with full force and destroy it as soon as possible. Don't give Yi Chunfeng a chance to heal. Slaying God suddenly spoke in a hoarse voice. Boom, boom, boom. After learning that the black tortoise god had been deceived, the white tiger demon god flew into a rage out of humiliation. He attacked the universe mirror together with Slaying God, destroying the universe mirror. Seeing that the universe mirror was destroyed, Yi Chunfeng, who had been healing for more than an hour in the 50-fold time flow, recovered his physical body with the help of the spiritual pearl of life and suppressed his injuries, appeared. What? His physical body has recovered? Seeing Yi Chunfeng's physical body recover, the white tiger demon god and the black tortoise god's expressions changed slightly. Slaying God's deep eyes also revealed a trace of seriousness. Now, it's my turn to attack. Although he had only won a little more than an hour, this was enough for Yi Chunfeng, who had broken through to the peak void god realm. He wielded the myriad origin sword and launched a ferocious attack at the white tiger demon god and the black tortoise god. He wanted to kill the two of them first before dealing with the terrifying Slaying God, who was suspected to be a peak void god. Black tortoise god, let's go! Yi Chunfeng attacked with shocking killing intent, causing the white tiger demon god and the black tortoise god to feel fear. They did not face Yi Chunfeng head-on and instead chose to escape. Isn't it too late to escape now? Yi Chunfeng did not give the two demon gods a chance to escape. Wielding the myriad origin sword, he stabbed forward. As the sword stabbed out, the sun and moon lost their light. The terrifying godless sword stole the brilliance of heaven and earth, evolving the unparalleled sword Tao and killing Tao as it stabbed toward the white tiger demon god. Brother Black Tortoise, save me! Although the white tiger demon god's attack was powerful and was only a step away from breaking through to the peak void god realm, his defense was far inferior to the black tortoise god's. Facing Yi Chunfeng's godless sword, he sensed a strong sense of danger. He used all his trump cards to defend himself while shouting for help. However, the black tortoise god was already scared out of his wit. He did not help at all and fled with all his might. As for Slaying God, he glanced at Yi Chunfeng from afar and also chose to flee. Chi! With a slash of the sword, the white tiger demon god's defensive trump cards were all shattered. The terrifying sword ray directly cut through the white tiger demon god's body and crushed his soul, killing him on the spot. After killing the white tiger demon god, who was at the peak of the great perfection of the void god realm, Yi Chunfeng did not slow down. He chased after the black tortoise god, who was like a startled bird fleeing for its life, and launched a fatal attack at him. Although the black tortoise god had the black tortoise armor, he still could not block Yi Chunfeng's ferocious attack. In just 10 breaths, the black tortoise god's life treasure, the black tortoise armor, shattered. The terrifying sword ray pierced through his strong body and crushed his life spirit and soul, killing him. Retrieve. After killing the white tiger demon god and the black tortoise god, Yi Chunfeng took their belongings. He glanced in the direction that slaying god had fled and returned to Sun Moon Divine Hall, preparing to pull out the mysterious sword that was stuck in the center of the Divine Hall. Chapter 2181. With the spirit of laws destroyed, Yi Chunfeng returned to the Sun Moon Shrine without any trouble. He walked under the red sun and the crescent moon and reached for the mysterious sword in the center of the shrine. Rise! Holding the dark golden sword hilt tightly with both hands, Yi Chunfeng's arms erupted with a force of 100 trillion kilograms. He tried to pull the mysterious sword, but it didn't budge at all. So heavy, this mysterious sword is so heavy. A force of 100 trillion kilograms could even uproot a mountain, but it couldn't pull out this mysterious sword. Continue to increase my strength. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and continued to increase his strength, pulling this mysterious sword with all his might. 3 million kilograms of strength, 5 million kilograms of strength, 6 million kilograms of strength. When Yi Chunfeng ignited his Hong Meng blood and merged it with the desolate territory, his strength increased to nearly 4 million kilograms, but he still couldn't pull this mysterious sword. How is this possible? Can it be that I can't pull this sword out with brute force? Yi Chunfeng increased his strength to the maximum and tried for more than a day. In the end, he was so tired that he almost collapsed, and he had no choice but to give up. Unable to use brute force to pull the mysterious sword out, Yi Chunfeng fell into deep thought. He cast his gaze toward the red sun and crescent moon floating in midair and controlled the God-Eater brain to try to comprehend them and find a way to pull out the mysterious sword. This is a sword move. While the God-Eater brain was rapidly deducing, Yi Chunfeng sensed half of a sword move from the red sun and crescent moon. If he combined them together, he would be able to form an extremely powerful sword move. Could comprehending the sword move be the key to pulling out this sword? Yi Chunfeng fell into deep thought and decided to waste some time to comprehend the mysterious sword move from the red sun and crescent moon. However, before comprehending, Yi Chunfeng checked the belongings of the white tiger demon god and the black tortoise demon god. Among their belongings, Yi Chunfeng unexpectedly discovered several precious body-tempering divine items. In addition to their origin blood and monster cores, Yi Chunfeng was prepared to attempt to break through to the last stage of the divine form transformation stage, the divine body realm. Yi Chunfeng chose to go into seclusion in Sun Moon Divine Hall. Shen Huang, Ren Huang, Yi Wuji, and the others all obtained great opportunities in the ruins of God. Little Six Tao, destroy. Yi Wuji, who was in an underground palace, merged with the super-divine artifact Little Six Paths and unleashed the power of the 6 origin sources. He bombarded a fierce god of war wearing golden armor and riding a black horse, shattering him instantly. The war god shattered. A large amount of 6-colored divine liquid flowed out from his body. Wuji, what kind of energy is this? How can it be so powerful? Seeing that the space was unable to withstand the 6-colored divine liquid and started to distort, Shen Yaotian immediately sensed the terror of the divine liquid and asked, "This should be the divine origin, the most essential energy of the ruins of God." Yi Wuji looked at the 6-colored divine liquid flowing out of the war god's body. He was extremely excited. "Yaotian Ming, protect me. I'm going to cultivate here for a while. Maybe I can use the power of the divine origin to repair the damage to my divine body." Yi Wuji put the 6-colored divine origin into Little Six Paths and began to cultivate in seclusion in the ruins of God. He refined the divine origin and repaired the damage to his divine body caused by the 9-9 extreme divine punishment. Many people obtained great opportunities in the ruins of God and cultivated in seclusion. During this time, terrifying tribulation clouds appeared in the ruins of God from time to time. Some people managed to break through to a higher realm during the tribulation, while others lost their lives due to the terrifying baptism of divine punishment or the sabotage of those with bad intentions. 2 years passed quickly in the ruins of God. Divine Body Realm Breakthrough. Yi Chunfeng finally broke through to the Divine Body Realm after refining the origin blood of the 2 demon gods, demon cores, and a large number of body-tempering divine items. His physical strength had reached 100 billion pounds, and his physical defense had reached an unparalleled level. After the breakthrough, the God-Eater brain, which was rapidly deducing, had also comprehended the Sun and Moon sword technique of the Red Sun and the Waning Moon. The Sun and Moon sword technique used the Supreme Sword principle to transform into the power of the Sun and the Moon. It used the most powerful form to crush the opponent. Its power far exceeded the supreme superpower and was even more powerful than the God's destruction and 10,000 Gods' tribulation. Chaos Body Devour. After comprehending the Sun and Moon sword technique, Yi Chunfeng didn't immediately pull out the mysterious sword. Instead, he opened his mouth and released a powerful devouring power. He directly swallowed the red sun that was floating in the air into his stomach and quickly refined it. After devouring the red sun, Yi Chunfeng immediately felt a scorching energy erupting in his body. The energy was so vast and pure that it far surpassed the 6-colored luminous ball. While enduring the power of the red sun, Yi Chunfeng controlled the chaos body and quickly refined it. He refined the red sun's power into his body and increased his own energy. If it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't dare to be so crazy and directly refine the red sun that was formed by the power of laws. However, Yi Chunfeng, who had cultivated the divine 9 transformations to the divine body realm and also activated the chaos body's strongest potential, didn't have much scruples. After about 5 days, Yi Chunfeng completely refined the energy contained in the red sun. He also swallowed the waning moon and controlled the chaos body to refine it forcefully. When Yi Chunfeng spent more than 10 days to refine the red sun and the waning moon, his battle prowess had nearly doubled. Feeling that the time was right, Yi Chunfeng tried to pull out the mysterious sword that was stuck in the center of the divine palace. Rise! Yi Chunfeng roared and raised his strength to the extreme. More than 1 trillion kilograms of strength instantly poured into the mysterious sword and pulled it out bit by bit. Ka. When the mysterious sword was pulled out bit by Yi Chunfeng, it caused the entire Sun-Moon Divine Hall to tremble. A large number of cracks spread out in all directions with the mysterious sword as the center. Countless chains of laws also shattered at this moment. In the end, Yi Chunfeng pulled out the divine sword that had been stuck in the center of the divine palace for countless years. At this moment, the Sun-Moon Divine Hall also collapsed with a loud bang. So heavy. This sword probably has a weight of 5 trillion kilograms. After pulling out the mysterious sword, Yi Chunfeng immediately felt that the sword was incomparably heavy. It had a weight of 5 trillion kilograms. With Yi Chunfeng's current physical strength, it was quite strenuous for him to use this sword to attack. However, the power of this sword was far beyond his imagination. Yi Chunfeng held the heavy sword in his hand and lightly waved it. Cracks appeared in the incomparably tough space. What level of divine sword is this? Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and placed the sword on the ruins of the collapsed divine palace. He bit his finger and continuously poured his blood essence into the sword, trying to make it recognize him as its master. Glug glug, this mysterious sword was like a child that could not eat its fill. It crazily devoured Yi Chunfeng's blood essence and sucked Yi Chunfeng's body dry up. His face was even more pale, without a trace of blood. In the end, this mysterious sword almost sucked all of Yi Chunfeng's blood essence dry before it stopped devouring. Hoo! This sword is too terrifying. It almost sucked me to death. Yi Chunfeng, who had lost too much blood, let out a long sigh of relief and muttered to himself with lingering fear. After losing a large amount of blood essence, Yi Chunfeng's body was severely exhausted. However, the mysterious sword had established a connection with him. According to the information that the mysterious sword sent to his mind, this sword was called the Sun-Moon Divine Sword. It was a sword that was left behind by a god and was a super-divine weapon. Super-divine weapon! Yi Chunfeng's eyes lit up. He did not expect that under the guidance of the spirits of gods, he would reap such a harvest. If he could completely refine the Sun-Moon Divine Sword and control it, his attack power would definitely be at the peak of the Nihility God realm, and he would have the ability to fight against an extreme Nihility God. Chapter 2182. Time flew by and soon another year had passed. Yi Chunfeng had spent nearly 50 years in the severely damaged universe mirror and finally stabilized his peak Nihility God realm. The Sun-Moon Divine Sword had been refined by his natal flame and was connected to his bloodline. Yi Chunfeng could now use the Sun-Moon Divine Sword to attack. However, using the Sun-Moon Divine Sword consumed too much energy. Even with Yi Chunfeng's peak Nihility God realm cultivation and boundless primordial blood, it was still difficult for him to use the Sun-Moon Divine Sword to attack. While refining the Sun-Moon Divine Sword, Yi Chunfeng also found that the Sun-Moon Return to Void Sword technique and the Sun-Moon Divine Sword complemented each other. With the Sun-Moon Divine Sword in hand, using the Sun-Moon Return to Void Sword technique could activate tens of thousands of mysterious divine runes in the Divine Sword, increasing its power exponentially. Sun-Moon Return to Void Sword technique. Yi Chunfeng roared and raised his strength to the maximum. Holding the 5 trillion gene Sun-Moon Divine Sword, he used the Sun-Moon Return to Void Sword technique and slashed at the towering 5-colored sacred mountain. As the sword slashed out, the scorching sun and the crescent moon hung high in the sky. The two great phenomena reflected each other and floated above the Sun-Moon Divine Sword like a waterfall. The sword slashed a deep sword mark on the 5-colored sacred mountain that was tens of thousands of meters tall. The terrifying sword power caused the entire sacred mountain to tremble. It should be known that there were many restrictions on the sacred mountain. In the battle between Yi Chunfeng and the two demon gods, he could not damage the extremely fast boulder. However, the Sun-Moon Divine Sword could split the mountain peak in half. It was enough to show the power of the Sun-Moon Divine Sword and the Sun-Moon Return to Void Sword technique. It's time to leave. There were less than 7 months before the ancient starry sky road closed. Yi Chunfeng did not waste any time and kept the Sun-Moon Divine Sword back into his body. He flew into the void and used the senses of the spirits of gods to continue searching for rare opportunities in the ruins of gods. As he flew, Yi Chunfeng heard a series of deafening explosions below him. The burly stone ancestor, who looked like a divine stone, wielded 2 enormous stone axes and fought fiercely with a headless divine general in battle armor in a valley shrouded in clouds. And behind the headless divine general, Yi Chunfeng vaguely discovered streaks of 5-colored divine light. Although Yi Chunfeng had found an opportunity in the valley, the god spirits did not sense it. Yi Chunfeng did not waste any time and quickly flew away. Looking at Yi Chunfeng's departing figure from afar, Stone Ancestor let out a sigh of relief. Holding the dual stone axes, he continued to fight the headless divine general. He was determined to kill him and seize the opportunity in the valley. Yes, someone is following us. As they flew, Yi Chunfeng's sharp senses suddenly detected that someone was secretly following them. He frowned slightly and a murderous intent flashed in his deep eyes. However, the person following him was constantly drifting, so Yi Chunfeng did not act rashly. He continued to fly until he reached an underground valley. As expected, you still followed us. Flying into the valley, the God-Eater brain rapidly deduced that someone was following them and used the evil Shura stream without hesitation. Although the supreme quality ancestral artifact Evil Shura Stream could only block that person for an instant, this brief moment was more than enough for Yi Chunfeng. I'd like to see where you'll run to. After unleashing the evil stopping thousand streams, Yi Chunfeng immediately turned around and raised his speed to the maximum. With the myriad origin sword in hand, he stabbed towards the mysterious person who was hidden in the void but was completely locked onto by the God-Eater brain. Now that his whereabouts had been exposed, this mysterious person who had been following Yi Chunfeng wanted to flee without hesitation. However, Yi Chunfeng's attack speed was even faster, and with the seal of the evil Shura stream, he simply could not dodge Yi Chunfeng's attack. Yi Chunfeng forced him out of the void. Godslayer, it's really you guys. Looking at the black-robed man with a strange aura and a black mask, Yi Chunfeng immediately recognized him. He was an assassin from the Godslayer Assassin organization. After revealing his true body, the Godslayer Assassin attacked the evil Shura stream that had turned into a river of death and sealed the void. He wanted to leave this place quickly. Time stop. Yi Chunfeng took a step across the void and appeared in front of him. Without waiting for him to attack, he suddenly stopped time and forcibly froze him in the void. Following which, Yi Chunfeng threw out an overbearing punch. Close to 200,000 kilograms of strength smashed his attack like breaking a dry branch and smashed into his body. The punch sent him flying and a large amount of blood spurted out from his mouth. You're not dead. Yi Chunfeng did not expect the Godslayer assassin to not die after taking a punch from him. He continued to stop time and launched a ferocious attack at him. After breaking through to the peak empty God realm, Yi Chunfeng's combat strength had increased by more than 10 times. Under his ferocious attack, the Godslayer assassin, who had a defensive treasure, was quickly defeated and was severely injured by Yi Chunfeng. However, just as Yi Chunfeng was about to search his soul, he suddenly exploded his body and did not give Yi Chunfeng a chance to search his soul. Who is the mastermind behind the Godslayer organization? Could it be him? Looking at the Godslayer assassin who had turned into a blood mist, Yi Chunfeng fell into deep thought. Slowly, a figure appeared in his mind. I hope you don't run into me. Otherwise, I will not let you go. After breaking through to the peak empty God realm and wielding the Sun-Moon Divine Sword, Yi Chunfeng was no longer afraid of the Almighties at the peak empty God realm. A murderous light flashed in his eyes as he kept the evil slaughter sword and flew out of the underground canyon. Following the senses of the spirits of gods, he continued to search for the great opportunity in the ruins of gods. After around 5 days, Yi Chunfeng flew above a vast lake in the ruins of gods. According to the senses of the spirits of gods, there was a great opportunity hidden in the depths of the lake. PFFF. In a flash, Yi Chunfeng broke into the lake and swam to the bottom of the lake at an extremely fast speed. Seals, there are so many seals. When Yi Chunfeng swam to the bottom of the lake at an extremely fast speed, he discovered a large number of seals. However, his strength was no longer the same as before. With the universal sword in his hand, he deduced the supreme sword principle and broke through the seals continuously. Soon, he arrived at the bottom of the lake and discovered a mausoleum at the bottom of the lake. Break for me. Yi Chunfeng quickly arrived at the entrance of the mausoleum and killed 2 strange fish that were circling around the mausoleum. He forcefully broke through the seals and entered the eerie mausoleum that was so dark that he couldn't even see his own fingers. Fire, there is fire in front. As he walked, Yi Chunfeng discovered that there were streaks of fire in the pitch-black space. The temperature of the space also increased. After walking out of the long and narrow tunnel, Yi Chunfeng came to a Yin hall that was carved with ancient totems and supported by hundreds of stone pillars. In the middle of the Yin hall, he discovered a pond that was filled with ice. In the middle of the pond, there was a huge 5-colored lotus that was in full bloom. There was a 5-colored divine fire burning on the lotus. Divine fire, there is a divine fire sealed here. The value of the divine fire was extremely high. If Yi Chunfeng could subdue it and refine it into his body, he could use the divine fire to refine his body and further refine his divine body. Chaotic Dharma power, go! Yi Chunfeng thought to himself and summoned the chaotic Dharma power that was at complete empty God realm. He ordered it to release the seal on the five-colored lotus and release the divine fire. Boom! After receiving a blow from the chaotic Dharma power, the seal on the five-colored lotus was broken. A terrifying heat was released from the lotus, burning the entire space and distorting it. After the divine fire was released, the chaotic Dharma power immediately turned into a towering chaotic divine tree. It extended tens of thousands of five-colored roots and formed a tree root prison to trap the divine fire. After being trapped by the tree root prison, the divine fire that had just been released went berserk and attacked the tree root prison with all its might. It wanted to melt the five-colored roots and break free. However, at this moment, Yi Chunfeng opened up two realms and used the power of the realms to suppress the divine fire. After breaking through to peak empty God realm, Yi Chunfeng's two realms were even more powerful. They could completely suppress the divine fire. Chapter 2183. I wonder what else is inside. After subduing the divine fire, Yi Chunfeng controlled the creation's sword soul to cut off the five-colored lotus flower that sealed the divine fire and continued walking deeper into the mausoleum. What's that? As he walked, Yi Chunfeng noticed a large number of stone statues in front of him. As he got closer, the stone statues suddenly came to life and attacked him fiercely with stone soldiers in their hands. Faced with the attacks of the stone statues, Yi Chunfeng did not dodge or evade. He used all his strength to fight back and crush the stone statues as he walked deeper into the mausoleum. Along the way, Yi Chunfeng didn't know how many stone statues he had destroyed. Slowly, Yi Chunfeng sensed the aura of the wood origin energy. That is, stepping on the stone statue fragments, Yi Chunfeng came to a new space. There were lush green grasslands, exotic flowers, towering ancient trees that covered the sky, and ancient vines that resembled long dragons. However, what attracted Yi Chunfeng's attention the most was an ancient tree that had a five-colored crown and was nearly 300 meters tall. It was an ancient tree that emanated powerful primal chaos energy. Chaotic divine wood. There's actually a chaotic divine wood here. Looking at the chaotic divine wood in front of him, Yi Chunfeng was pleasantly surprised. He did not expect the chaotic divine wood to exist in the ruins of God. If the chaotic celestial appearance were to merge with this chaotic divine wood, I wonder how powerful it would be. The chaotic divine wood meant too much to Yi Chunfeng. He decided to merge the chaotic divine wood into his chaotic celestial appearance at all costs. Chaotic divine wood. I can feel the aura of the chaotic divine wood. Yi Chunfeng stepped on the grass and walked step by step toward the towering chaotic divine wood. It was as if the chaotic divine wood was holding up the world. An old voice sounded from the chaotic divine wood. The chaotic celestial appearance was attracted by the chaotic divine wood and became inexplicably restless. Senior, are you willing to leave with me? With a thought, Yi Chunfeng summoned the chaotic celestial appearance. He looked at the old face that appeared on the thick trunk of the chaotic divine wood and said loudly, I didn't expect you to make a chaos divine would recognize you as its master. The old face spoke in human language. It's not impossible for me to leave with you, but you must have the strength to make me submit. So you're saying that if this junior's strength can surpass senior's, Senior will be willing to leave with me? Yi Chunfeng raised his eyebrows, secretly delighted. No, only God can make me submit, the old face said coldly. God. Yi Chunfeng smiled and said, Senior, do you think I have a chance to become a god? Although you made a chaos divine would recognize you as its master, I can't see any hope of you becoming a god, the old face said. Really? If I had this, do you think I would have a chance to become a god? With that, Yi Chunfeng took out the spirits of the gods. This is the true spirit of God. Looking at the spirits of the gods in Yi Chunfeng's hand, the old face was shocked. Where did you get the true spirit of God? As far as I know, there's no such thing in the ruins of God. Senior, if you're willing to help me, I have a chance of becoming a god, Yi Chunfeng said patiently. All right, if you're willing to give me the true spirit of God, I'll follow you. The old face covered the greed in its eyes as it demanded an exorbitant price. Impossible, the spirits of the gods belong to me. Yi Chunfeng shook his head and refused directly. In that case, go to hell. The old face suddenly changed its expression and controlled the towering chaos divine wood to attack Yi Chunfeng. The five-colored treetop that covered dozens of miles shook violently. The rolling chaotic energy formed an endless hurricane that swept through the entire world, forcing Yi Chunfeng to retreat hundreds of meters. A stream of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. We don't know who's going to die yet. Yi Chunfeng didn't expect the Chaos Divine would to want to snatch the spirits of the gods. His face instantly turned gloomy. He controlled the Chaos Divine wood to grow bigger, and the five-colored treetop swayed to meet the attack with all its might. The two Chaos Divine woods fought fiercely, and the destructive power was too terrifying. It destroyed the fairyland-like space in an instant. Creation Sword Soul Fusion. Godless Sword. While the two Chaos Divine woods were fighting fiercely, Yi Chunfeng quickly merged with the Universal Sword and evolved the Supreme Sword Principle. He forcefully tore apart the chaotic energy that was coming at him like an avalanche. He pierced the thick treetop of the Chaos Divine wood and forcefully pierced a huge hole in the treetop. He then entered the Chaos Divine wood. You're courting death. The tree spirit felt that Yi Chunfeng dared to break into the Chaos Divine wood and was instantly enraged. It mobilized the powerful chaotic energy to kill him. However, under the attacks of Yi Chunfeng's two domains, the surging primal chaos force was continuously weakened. Mirror Image Doppelganger. Yi Chunfeng made use of the two domains to defend against the chaotic energy and quickly created three mirror image doppelganger. After breaking through to the peak virtual god realm, Yi Chunfeng's three mirror image doppelganger almost had the combat strength of a peak virtual god. Under the full attack of Yi Chunfeng's three mirror image doppelganger, the Chaos Divine Wood's treetop started to crack. The tree spirit was even more threatened. Don't hide, I found you. With the God-Eater Brain's deduction, Yi Chunfeng found the tree spirit's hiding place and immediately summoned the Sun-Moon Legendary Sword. Sun-Moon Legendary Sword, why is this sword with you? The Sun-Moon Legendary Sword was once a god sword and was very famous in the ruins of God. Seeing that Yi Chunfeng had actually subdued this sword, the tree spirit revealed a trace of fear. Sun-Moon Legendary Sword, break! Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and raised his combat strength to the maximum. With the Sun-Moon Legendary Sword in his hand, he summoned the Divine Sun and Divine Moon and slashed out an invincible sword. Ka! Under the attack of the invincible sword radiance, the Chaos Divine Wood's treetop started to crack. A huge crack extended to the tree spirit's hiding place. Although the tree spirit was powerful and could continuously borrow the Chaos Divine Wood's strength, its body exploded under the attack of the Sun-Moon Legendary Sword. It was severely injured. Just as the tree spirit wanted to quickly recover its spiritual body, Yi Chunfeng summoned the God-Eater Brain and flew over to devour the tree spirit. No, what is this? The tree spirit screamed in fear as it was devoured by the God-Eater Brain. It desperately tried to escape. However, at this moment, Yi Chunfeng, who was extremely weak, forcefully opened up two realms to suppress the tree spirit. No, don't destroy me. As long as you're willing to let me go, I'm willing to submit to you. I'll submit to you forever. The tree spirit was truly terrified. If it was devoured by the God-Eater Brain, it would disappear forever and the Chaos Divine would become an ownerless object. No need, that's too troublesome. Yi Chunfeng was unmoved as he controlled the God-Eater Brain to continue devouring. In the end, the tree spirit of the Chaos Divine Wood was devoured by the God-Eater Brain. The towering Chaos Divine would also stopped attacking. Chaos Celestial Body, Devour. Yi Chen-feng took a deep breath as he controlled the Chaos Celestial Body to break into the Chaos Divine Wood. It devoured the matured Chaos Divine Wood from the treetop to undergo the ultimate transformation. While the Chaos Celestial Body was devouring the Chaos Divine Wood, Yi Chen-feng flew out of the treetop and released his powerful soul power to search the severely damaged space. He found a small pond in the ground that was filled with cracks. It could be used to refine the heaven-seizing supreme pill and contained powerful divine energy. There are really opportunities everywhere in the ruins of God. Looking at the mysterious heaven divine marrow that could make a peak empty God realm expert green with envy, Yi Chen-feng immediately jumped into the divine marrow pond and controlled the Chaos Celestial Body to devour it. Chapter 2184. While the ruins of God was in turmoil, Yi Chen-feng had been cultivating in the tomb at the bottom of the lake. After refining an entire pond of mysterious heaven divine marrow, Yi Chen-feng's battle prowess had increased by almost 5 times. His body had also become even purer under the refinement of the divine fire. There were faint signs of him transforming into a second firmament divine body. Chaos Avatar Transform. Under the crazy devouring of the Chaos Avatar, the towering Chaos Divine Wood withered. After devouring the entire Chaos Divine Wood, the Chaos Avatar had completed a qualitative transformation. The chaos force that it nurtured had almost transformed to the extreme, and the combat strength of the Chaos Avatar was close to the extreme of the empty God realm. Since he and the Chaos Avatar had both broken through, Yi Chen-feng did not continue cultivating. He left the underground tomb hidden at the bottom of the lake and appeared in the outside world. He used the spirits of gods to continue sensing the great opportunities in the ruins of God. Calamity Cloud. Who is going through the calamity ahead? As he flew, Yi Chen-feng suddenly realized that the sky in the distance was covered by 5-colored Calamity Cloud. Loud thunder roared from the Calamity Cloud and shook the 9 heavens. This is the extreme divine punishment. Looking at the Calamity Cloud that covered dozens of miles and circled rapidly, Yi Chen-feng immediately recognized that this was the extreme divine punishment that would only be attracted when one broke through to the extreme of the empty God realm. It's him. Yi Chen-feng approached the space of divine punishment and looked into the depths of the chaotic space. He saw a familiar figure, and it was his old enemy, Supreme Shintian. I can't believe that I met Supreme Shintian, who is going through the calamity. Yi Chen-feng's lips curled into a cold smile. If I don't kill you this time, I'll be letting you down. Yi Chen-feng. Yi Chen-feng noticed Supreme Shintian, and Supreme Shintian, who was deducing the Supreme Tao meaning and resisting the extreme divine punishment, also noticed him. Supreme Shintian did not expect his luck to be so bad that he would meet Yi Chen-feng at such a critical moment. His face turned ugly. However, at this moment, he had no way out. He could only dispel all distracting thoughts and control the wheel of heavenly Tao to resist the divine punishment with all his might. He prayed that Yi Chen-feng wouldn't dare to barge in. However, what he didn't know was that Yi Chen-feng's physical body had been tempered to the extreme. Although the 99 extreme divine punishment was terrifying, it was very difficult for it to destroy Yi Chen-feng. So, an ear-piercing sound pierced through the air. Yi Chen-feng wielded the myriad origin sword and charged into the 99 extreme divine punishment. He quickly closed in on Supreme God Heaven and launched a ferocious attack. You're courting death. When Supreme Shintian saw Yi Chen-feng charging in, his expression changed. He immediately deduced the Supreme Tao and evolved the Supreme Sacred Art to attack him with all his might, not giving him a chance to get close. However, the moment he was distracted, a large amount of power of 99 entered his body and damaged his meridians. Large amounts of blood spurted out from his mouth. Chaotic Avatar Fuse. The terrifying supreme power blended with the 99 extreme divine punishment and attack. Yi Chen-feng immediately fused with the chaotic avatar, and burned his Hong Meng bloodline and Heart of God to raise his fighting strength to the extreme. He broke through Supreme God Heaven's attack in one hit and endured the 99 extreme divine punishment. He continued to launch ferocious attacks and aggravated the injuries on his body. No one can stop me from entering the empty God realm. Supreme God Heaven let out a ferocious roar, and a divine pearl that was shining with 6 colors flew into his mouth. As for this divine pearl, it was an unparalleled opportunity that Supreme Shen-Tian had obtained in the ruins of God. Sealed within it was a large amount of divine source. Borrowing the power of the divine source, Supreme Shen-Tian forcefully stabilized his injuries and began to fight with Yi Chen-feng in the 99 extreme divine punishment. Yi Chen-feng's physical body was invincible. However, he still felt immense pressure when he fought with Supreme God Heaven in the 99 extreme divine punishment. Supreme God Heaven borrowed the majestic power of the divine source to resist Yi Chen-feng and the 99 extreme divine punishment for a short period of time. He fought with all his might at the edge of life and death. As time passed, Yi Chen-feng's chaotic body started to show signs of damage. A large amount of blood flowed out and the 99 extreme power continuously damaged his internal organs. However, he did not retreat. He clenched his teeth and fought fiercely with Supreme God Heaven. He knew that once Supreme God Heaven had a perfect breakthrough to the empty God realm, it would be extremely difficult to kill him. Yi Chen-feng, you can't kill me. I'll let you see what I've gained. Yi Chen-feng's physical body's injuries worsened and Supreme God Heaven's injuries were even worse. He had no choice but to use the greatest opportunity that he had obtained in the ruins of God. He originally wanted to use this opportunity at the last moment of the 99 extreme divine punishment. However, Yi Chen-feng's attacks were too ferocious and forced him into a dead end. He had no choice but to use this trump card in advance. Boom! A powerful bloodline power erupted from Supreme God Heaven's body. With this powerful bloodline power, Supreme God Heaven's battle strength instantly soared, and his severely depleted divine power was instantly restored. This is the primordial bloodline. Supreme God Heaven actually obtained the primordial bloodline in the ruins of God. Feeling the familiar aura from Supreme God Heaven's body, Yi Chen-feng raised his eyebrows and revealed a surprised expression. After burning the primordial bloodline, Supreme God Heaven's battle strength reached an extremely terrifying level. Yi Chen-feng, who was heavily injured, did not persist any longer. He endured the 99 extreme divine punishment and quickly retreated from the tribulation area. He consumed a void god pill and quickly healed his injuries. After using his last trump card, Yi Chen-feng quickly escaped. This made Supreme God Heaven gnash his teeth in hatred, but there was nothing he could do. At this moment, he did not dare to chase after Yi Chen-feng. He could only rely on the primordial bloodline and the power of the God Source to bitterly endure the baptism of the 99 extreme divine punishment. Yi Chen-feng, when this God breaks through to the nihility God realm, this God will definitely crush you to death. Although he forced Yi Chen-feng to retreat, Supreme God Heaven's situation was not good. In the battle with Yi Chen-feng just now, he had injured his foundation, and the 99 extreme divine punishment had destroyed his body beyond recognition. At this moment, Supreme God Heaven hated Yi Chen-feng to death. He regretted not killing Yi Chen-feng before he had fully matured. The 99 extreme divine punishment continued for 3 days and 3 nights without any signs of subsiding. In order to survive the 99 extreme divine punishment, Supreme God Heaven continuously refined one shocking trump card after another to support himself. At this time, Yi Chen-feng charged in again. This time, Yi Chen-feng summoned the Sun-Moon Divine Sword that weighed 500 trillion jin, preparing to deal a fatal blow to Supreme God Heaven. Sacred Book of Creation, void of heaven and earth. Yi Chen-feng charged in again. Supreme God Heaven, who was close to breaking through to the nihility God realm, burned his primordial blood, deduced the supreme Tao will, and merged it with the power of territory to form a terrifying heaven's wrath. He forcefully triggered the 9-9 extreme divine punishment and attacked him. Supreme God Heaven had raised his combat strength to the extreme with this attack. It was enough to kill any peak nihility God realm almighty. Sun Moon returned to Void Sword. Facing Supreme God Heaven's strongest attack, Yi Chunfeng held the Sun Moon Divine Sword and faced it head-on. With a slash of the sword, the scorching sun and the crescent moon fell. The sword power was like a dragon. The entire space seemed to be unable to withstand the attack of the sword. Everything returned to the void, leaving behind a sword light that could split the heavens and earth. Chi. The two powerful forces collided. The sacred book of creation that Supreme God Heaven had created was instantly shattered. The invincible sword light slashed through all obstacles and ruthlessly slashed Supreme God Heaven's body. It directly split his body that had almost transformed into a divine body into two. No! With his body shattered, Supreme God Heaven was immediately annihilated by the terrifying extreme divine punishment. The moment he turned into ashes, Yi Chunfeng endured the terrifying extreme divine punishment. He took the risk to approach Supreme God Heaven and searched his soul. Yi Chunfeng, I will not let you off even if I die. Supreme God Heaven had never dreamed that he, who should have broken through to the extreme nihility God realm and looked down on the various tribes, would end up in such a situation. When Yi Chunfeng searched his soul, Supreme God Heaven had self-destructed and launched a fatal attack on him. Boom! Supreme God Heaven, a formidable hero of a generation, had self-destructed. Although Yi Chunfeng had managed to dodge in time, he was still severely injured. His body was badly mutilated. However, Yi Chunfeng had gained a lot from the risky soul search. Through Supreme God Heaven's soul memory, he found out where Supreme God Heaven had obtained the primordial blood. According to Supreme God Heaven's memory, Supreme God Heaven had not killed the mysterious person who possessed the primordial blood. He had only cut off one of his arms. I wonder if I can kill that person and obtain his primordial blood. Will I be able to step into the extreme nihility God realm? Chapter 2185. Danger. Yi Chunfeng was far away from the extreme space of God's punishment. When he consumed a void God pill to recuperate, his sharp senses detected danger and he instinctively dodged. Yi Chunfeng's reaction was extremely fast, but the person who ambushed him was even faster. In the blink of an eye, an incomparably sharp longsword cut through Yi Chunfeng's body, leaving a deep sword wound on his mangled chest. Azura, it's you again. Looking at the strange man who had entered the space, Yi Chunfeng recognized him immediately. He was the Azura who had tried to assassinate him multiple times. Although Yi Chunfeng was severely injured, his strength was no longer the same as before. It was almost impossible for the Azura to kill him while he was severely injured. Die! The Azura didn't waste this opportunity. He held the extremely sharp God Slayer sword which had reached the pinnacle of Void God artifact and stabbed towards Yi Chunfeng. Time stop. The Azura stabbed at lightning speed. Yi Chunfeng immediately stopped time and tried to restrict the Azura's speed. However, the Azura's strength was terrifying. He had reached the peak of Void God realm. When he stabbed his sword, the time stopped time and space shattered. His sword stabbed towards Yi Chunfeng's throat. In the blink of an eye, Yi Chunfeng's speed increased by a few folds. He dodged the God Slayer sword and activated the power of two domains to suppress the Azura. However, the Azura was extremely strange. He was like a divine bird that could travel through time and space. He forcefully pierced through the power of the two domains and continued to attack Yi Chunfeng. In a flash, Yi Chunfeng stabbed out with the Universal Origin Sword. The two divine swords pierced against each other accurately. Instantly, the surging energy waves caused the entire space to tremble violently. Sensing the destructive power from the universal origin sword, the Asura's eyes narrowed. He immediately changed his move and displayed unfathomable speed. Unparalleled sword shadows intertwined and continued to attack Yi Chunfeng. Desolate Fist. Yi Chunfeng controlled the Chaos Dharma idol to stabilize his body's injuries. He instantly merged with the Chaos domain and blasted out a punch that was powerful enough to destroy realms. It crushed the Killing God's attack as easily as smashing rotten wood. It forced the Killing God to retreat hundreds of meters. A large amount of blood flowed down his palm. After forcing the Killer God back with a single punch, Yi Chunfeng followed up with another attack. With the myriad origin sword in hand, he deduced the unparalleled sword Dao to suppress the Killer God's attack. Amidst the intense battle, Yi Chunfeng's exhaustion from using the Sun-Moon Divine Sword, as well as the injuries on his body, were recovering at an extremely fast rate. Yi Chunfeng's attacks were ferocious, but Asura's attacks were not weak either. The two of them pushed their swordsmanship to the extreme and fought fiercely in the ruins of God. Supreme Killing Technique, God Slaying. In the midst of the battle, the Killing God executed his supreme killing moves, continuously launching ferocious attacks at Yi Chunfeng. Yi Chunfeng fused the power of his two domains as he watched the Killing God unleash a supreme killing technique with his own body. He continuously unleashed supreme divine abilities to meet the attack with all his might. Boom, boom, boom. As the two of them clashed, the destructive power they created was extremely shocking. The ground of the ruins of God was destroyed beyond recognition. The incomparably tough void was also torn apart by the shockwaves from the two of them clashing. Suddenly, a powerful soul force blasted into Yi Chunfeng's soul sea, causing his soul to tremble and his reaction to become slightly sluggish. Although he regained his consciousness in an instant, the Killing God still grasped this fleeting opportunity to stab his sword into Yi Chunfeng's chest. At this critical moment, Yi Chunfeng's left hand transformed into a divine moon, while his right hand transformed into a divine sun. The power of the primal chaos law phase completely erupted and poured into his fist. He used his left and right hands as swords and executed the solar moon return to void sword, attacking the Killing God. The offensive power of the solar moon return to void sword surpassed the supreme divine abilities and reached the level of the entire body. Facing the attack of the power of the sun and moon, the Killing God's expression changed greatly. He gave up the opportunity to continue attacking Yi Chunfeng and rapidly retreated. Time stop. As the Killing God retreated, Yi Chunfeng ignored his injuries and forcefully stopped time. He froze the Killing God, allowing him to take the fatal blow of the solar moon return to void sword. Boom. After being struck by the solar lunar return to the void sword, the Asura's body was sent flying. The black robe that covered his body could not withstand the power of the sun and moon and shattered, revealing the Asura's true body. The heavily injured Killing God spat out a mouthful of blood and immediately fled into the distance. However, in his heavily injured state, his fleeing speed was greatly reduced. Yi Chunfeng quickly caught up to him. Right when Yi Chunfeng was developing a supreme Dao insight and launching a lethal attack at him with the intention of killing this god of slaughter that had repeatedly tried to assassinate him, an unparalleled golden sword light descended from the sky. It tore apart the tough space of the ruins of God with a single strike, and it was like a falling meteor as it slashed towards Yi Chunfeng. The appearance of this sword light was sudden, but it was caught by the God-Eater brain, which was rapidly deducing. In the blink of an eye, Yi Chunfeng continuously dodged, leaving behind numerous afterimages in the air, as he dodged the attack of the golden sword ray. Gotcha! Yi Chunfeng dodged the attack, but a deep sword mark was carved into the ground below him by this descending golden sword light. It extended for tens of thousands of meters. Human Emperor! Looking at the figure that suddenly appeared and stood in the air, exuding the aura of a ruler, Yi Chenfeng's pupils immediately shrank into the most dangerous pinholes. The person behind the god-killing assassin organization is indeed you. I knew I couldn't hide this from you. The human emperor, who wore a golden robe and a crescent moon crown, revealed a cold smile. Human emperor, why do you insist on killing me? You should know that the same bloodline flows in our bodies. We should work together to deal with the divine clan and Shen Huang. He is your greatest opponent after you become a god. Yi Chenfeng questioned loudly as he rapidly healed his injuries. If you give me the greatest opportunity you obtained from the Chaos Tomb, I can let you go. The human emperor revealed his true motive. The greatest opportunity one obtained in the desolate tomb was the great desolate body and the great desolate heart. Now that I have refined the great desolate body, I have given the great desolate heart to Tai. Yi Chenfeng said calmly, his expression unchanged. You can deceive others, but you can't deceive me. The human emperor shook his head and said, although the chaos body and chaos heart are precious, I know that they are not the greatest opportunity in the chaos tomb. Alright, Yi Chenfeng, don't play these little games with me. Either you hand over the greatest opportunity you obtained from the chaos tomb, or you die. Choose for yourself. The human emperor said coldly. His terrifying killing intent completely locked onto Yi Chenfeng, monitoring his every move. I don't have the greatest opportunity you speak of, but if you want to fight, I'll play along. Yi Chenfeng's body emitted an extremely strong battle intent. He retorted, but human emperor, if you are a smart person, you should work with me to fight against Shen Huang. He is the greatest threat. I will naturally deal with Shen Huang, but before that, I want to get rid of you and see what kind of great opportunity you obtained from the Chaos Tomb. The human emperor didn't believe Yi Chenfeng's explanation at all. His body flashed, and an afterimage appeared in midair. He slashed at Yi Chenfeng with the human emperor's sword in his hand. Godless sword. As the human emperor attacked, Yi Chenfeng immediately deduced the supreme will of Wei. He held the universal sword in his hand and met the attack head-on. Although he had not recovered from his injuries, he was confident that with his current battle strength and foundation, he could definitely fight the human emperor. In the end, he felt that he had a higher chance of killing the human emperor. Boom! After a head-on collision, Yi Chenfeng felt as if an unimaginable power had destroyed the godless sword and ruthlessly smashed into his body, sending him flying. A large amount of blood spurted out uncontrollably from his mouth, staining it with blood. Extreme Void God. You have reached the Extreme Void God. Chapter 2186. Why? Are you surprised? I'm destined to become a god. How can a mere ultimate empty god stop me? The human sovereign said arrogantly. Yi Chenfeng, you're a talent. I really can't bear to kill you. The human sovereign looked at Yi Chenfeng with cold arrogance and said, this deity will give you one last chance. If you are willing to give me the great fortuitous encounter you obtained from the great desolate tomb and promise to submit to me, when this sovereign becomes a deity, I will definitely bestow upon you a great opportunity. I've said it before. I only obtained the Chaos Heart and Chaos Body from the Chaos Tomb. I didn't obtain any other great opportunities. Yi Chenfeng shook his head and remained unmoved. Yi Chenfeng, since you don't cherish the opportunity one gave you, I'll send you to hell. The human sovereign lost his patience. He conjured the great path and sealed the space within a few miles. He held the human sovereign's sword and attacked Yi Chenfeng. Life spirit skill, life burning. The human sovereign was too much of a threat. Yi Chenfeng had no choice but to burn 100,000 years of his life to borrow the majestic life force to increase his combat strength. After merging with the chaotic Dharma, burning the primordial blood, and the heart of God, Yi Chenfeng's combat strength was close to the ultimate empty God level. Now that he had burned 100,000 years of his life, Yi Chenfeng's combat strength instantly reached the ultimate empty God level, which was almost on par with the human sovereign. After burning his life force, Yi Chunfeng's strength increased tremendously. It had almost reached 1.5 trillion gene of strength. With a thought, he summoned the Sun-Moon legendary sword and resisted the human sovereign's invincible sword radiance. I didn't expect you to have such a great harvest. Looking at the Sun-Moon legendary sword in Yi Chunfeng's hand that weighed 2.5 trillion gene of strength, the human sovereign's eyes burned with passion. You're in trouble because of your wealth. I won't let you off today. With that, the human sovereign continued to attack Yi Chunfeng. He was determined to kill him and take everything he had. The battle prowess of a human emperor was already shocking to begin with. Now that he had reached the peak of the void-treading realm, his battle prowess had skyrocketed to a level that no one could match. The sword slashed out like a torrential ocean, causing the entire space to tremble. Slash. The human sovereign's combat prowess was terrifying, and Yi Chunfeng, who executed the life spirit technique, was not much weaker than him. Using the Sun-Moon divine sword, Yi Chunfeng used all his strength to shatter the human sovereign's sword gleam and slash apart the terrifying waves of Tao will. When the human emperor's sword beam shattered, the human emperor immediately threw out a punch. He punched out with an incomparably domineering punch. The terrifying fist light was like a falling divine stone, bringing with it a terrifying pressure. The entire space was unable to withstand the power of this fist, and cracks appeared. Destruction of the gods, tribulation of the myriad gods. Yi Chunfeng met the attack head-on. He slashed out with his sword, unleashing an unrivaled divine might. The terrifying god-slaying might was unstoppable, capable of annihilating all living things. It clashed head-on with the might of the human emperor's fist. Boom! The two destructive forces collided. It was as if the end of the world had arrived, and heaven and earth turned into chaos. Superpower tyrannical kick. After forcefully breaking the human sovereign's attack, Yi Chunfeng leaped high and stomped towards the human sovereign. The stomp was like the divine foot of an ancient giant god. It was as if it could destroy the 9 realms, and the entire space was constantly cracking. Your strength is not bad, but it's not enough to hurt me. In an instant, the human sovereign stabbed out 81 times consecutively. The terrifying sword gleam was about to flatten everything, and it instantly crushed Yi Chunfeng's tyrannical kick. Using the powerful recoil, Yi Chunfeng did not continue to attack. Instead, he suddenly fled. Facing the human sovereign head-on, Yi Chunfeng deeply experienced the terror of the human sovereign. The life spirit technique burned one's lifespan, and there was a limit to how long it could increase one's combat prowess. Once he was entangled with the human sovereign, his life force would be exhausted, and he would be in danger. You want to run? Not so easy. Looking at the rapidly escaping Yi Chunfeng, the human sovereign waved his arm and instantly shook open the chaotic space. He chased after Yi Chunfeng at an extremely fast speed. Solar Moon returned to the Void Sword. The human sovereign's combat prowess was unparalleled, and his speed was unparalleled. Sensing that the distance between him and the human sovereign was closing, Yi Chunfeng immediately activated his unparalleled divine power, conjuring a divine sun and a divine moon. With the Solar Moon divine sword in hand, he turned around and slashed at the relentless human sovereign. Ka. With a slash of the sword, the galaxy collapsed. This sword crushed everything in the world, and nothing could block it. It caused a vacuum to appear around the human sovereign. Sensing that this sword was completely locked onto him, the human sovereign immediately summoned the Chaos Stone General. He used the Chaos Stone General's defense to withstand this sword attack. Boom! The Chaos Stone General's continuous attacks were shattered, and the terrifying Solar Moon returned to the Void Sword ruthlessly slashed at the Chaos Stone General. Although the Chaos Stone General's defense was invincible, it still couldn't withstand the attack of the Solar Moon returned to the Void Sword. It was sent flying by this sword, and its entire body flew tens of thousands of meters away. However, the human sovereign used the instant the Chaos Stone General blocked the attack to once again close the distance between him and Yi Chunfeng, launching an attack at him from a distance. Under the sky, terrifying fist radiance bombarded Yi Chunfeng like meteors. For a moment, the entire sky collapsed, and Yi Chunfeng, who was dodging with all his might, felt his blood boil. It was extremely uncomfortable. The power of two great domains fuse. As his injuries continued to worsen, Yi Chunfeng instantly fused the power of two great domains. In an instant, he used 3 supreme mystiques to attack the human sovereign. He blocked the fist radiance that he blasted out and tried his best to slow down the human sovereign's speed. Yi Chunfeng and the human sovereign exchanged blows. The destructive power created was too shocking, and it attracted the attention of many people. The human sovereign is chasing after Yi Chunfeng. The ancient clan leader, Gu Yi, looked at the two of them from afar. His expression changed slightly, and he immediately looked at Gu Qianqiu, who had obtained a great opportunity in the ruins of God and reached the peak of the Void God realm. Patriarch, should we help? Sigh, with our strength, we can't help Yi Chunfeng at all. Let's continue searching for the great opportunity in the ruins of God. Although he only glanced from afar, the experienced Gu Qianqiu knew that whether it was the human sovereign or Yi Chunfeng, their combat strength far exceeded his. If he went to help, it would be no different from courting death. Young Master Yi, the evil god, who was trying his best to kill an ancient beast, also discovered Yi Chunfeng, who was being chased by the human sovereign. However, as the two of them were too fast, the evil god, who had obtained a great opportunity in the ruins of God and cultivated to the peak of the Void God realm, could only watch as the two of them disappeared before his eyes. Damn it, how can I get rid of the human sovereign? Using the powerful life force, Yi Chunfeng continuously dispelled the human sovereign's attack. However, as time passed, the boundless life force in Yi Chunfeng's body showed signs of dissipating. This made Yi Chunfeng extremely anxious, and he kept thinking of ways to escape. Yi Chunfeng, I advise you not to make any useless struggles. You can't escape. The human sovereign held the human sovereign's sword and continued to attack, continuing to close the distance between him and Yi Chunfeng. Suddenly, Yi Chunfeng, who was flying at a high speed, turned around and flew toward the human sovereign at an extremely fast speed. And Yi Chunfeng's sudden action was greatly out of the human sovereign's expectations. After a short moment of surprise, the human sovereign suddenly felt the flow of time around him stop. In the next moment, Yi Chunfeng transformed his body into the sun and moon, striking out with the way of equipment control. He activated the strongest power of the sun and moon divine sword and launched a fatal attack at the human sovereign. Sun and moon returned to Void Sword. With a strike of the sword, the human sovereign was merciless. The sword radiance that evolved into the sun and moon shone with a scorching light, sweeping across the void. The terrifying power of the sword caused cracks to appear in the void, unable to withstand it. Pfft. The human sovereign relied on his absolute strength to shatter the frozen space. The terrifying sun and moon returned to Void Sword slashed his body, sending him flying, leaving behind a large amount of blood mist in the air. After injuring the human sovereign with one strike, Yi Chunfeng did not follow up with another attack. Instead, he used this opportunity to fly away at an extremely fast speed, wanting to take the opportunity to get rid of the human sovereign. However, after half an hour, Yi Chunfeng realized that the human sovereign was chasing closely behind him. This made his heart sink to the bottom. Chapter 2187. What should I do? I can't shake off the Emperor. In order to shake off the Emperor's pursuit, Yi Chunfeng had given his all. However, the Emperor still caught up with him. This made Yi Chunfeng extremely anxious as he kept thinking of ways to escape. That is, as Yi Chunfeng flew, he realized that there was a black swamp in front of him. There was a large amount of black fog floating above the swamp, covering everything. Swamp. Although it was extremely likely that there were great dangers hidden in the swamp, Yi Chunfeng couldn't care less right now. Without any hesitation, he flew over without slowing down, entering the unknown dangers of the Black Swamp. It's so quiet. As soon as Yi Chunfeng entered the Black Swamp, he felt that his surroundings were quiet. The spirits of gods that he had sealed in his chest trembled for no reason. Obviously, there was great danger hidden in the Black Swamp, but there was also great opportunity hidden in it. However, Yi Chunfeng couldn't care less about the great opportunity in the Black Swamp. At that moment, he only wanted to shake off the Emperor's pursuit before his life force was exhausted. Danger! As he flew, the God-Eater brain that was rapidly deducing suddenly sensed danger in front of him. Yi Chunfeng had goosebumps all over his body. Mirror image doppelganger. As soon as he sensed danger, Yi Chunfeng split into 3 mirror image doppelganger without hesitation. However, he hid in the Qianquan mirror and hid in one of the mirror image doppelganger. Hiss hiss hiss, as the 3 mirror image doppelganger approached the danger at an extremely fast speed, there was an ear-piercing hiss. In the thick black fog, Yi Chunfeng saw a huge figure break out of the swamp. Prehistoric savage beast, 1,000-headed giant snake. Seeing the real body of the huge black shadow, Yi Chunfeng wasn't shocked. Instead, he was delighted. He didn't expect such a huge creature to be hidden in the black swamp. Judging from the terrifying aura of the 1,000-headed giant snake, its combat strength was far beyond his. It was comparable to an empty god almighty. 3 mirror image doppelganger attack. In order to enrage the 1,000-headed giant serpent, Yi Chunfeng immediately ordered his 3 mirror images to launch a ferocious attack on the 1,000-headed giant serpent. Despicable humans, you dare to offend this god? I'll devour you all. The 1,000-headed giant serpent let out a ferocious hiss. Its 1,000 heads opened at the same time and spat out terrifying demonic light to attack the 3 mirror image clones. Pung pung pung. Although Yi Chunfeng's 3 mirror images possessed terrifying battle prowess, their defense was not strong. They were unable to withstand the attacks of the 1,000-headed giant serpent, and their bodies were shattered by the terrifying demonic lights. The moment the 3 mirror image clones shattered, Human Sovereign, who had been chasing after them, appeared. Humans! I hate humans the most. The 1,000 eyes of the 1,000-headed giant serpent shone ferociously. It twisted its mountain-like body and attacked the human emperor. The 1,000-headed giant serpent's battle prowess was terrifying. Its 1,000 heads attacked at the same time, covering the entire space. The human emperor had no way to dodge and could only face the attack with all his might. While the human emperor and the 1,000-headed giant serpent were fighting, Yi Chunfeng controlled the broken universe mirror to move quickly and escape from the black swamp. Where do you think you're going? The human emperor's powerful soul power captured the rapidly moving universe mirror. He roared furiously and wanted to force the 1,000-headed giant serpent to retreat so that he could pursue Yi Chunfeng with all his might. However, the 1,000-headed giant serpent's battle prowess was too terrifying. The human emperor's consecutive killer moves were unable to force it back. He could only watch as Yi Chunfeng flew further and further away, disappearing into the swamp that was covered by black fog. Huff huff, I've finally gotten rid of the human emperor. After defeating the human emperor's pursuit with the help of the 1,000-headed giant serpent, Yi Chunfeng controlled the divine fire to temper his body and melt the mark that the human emperor had left on him. Looks like I have to get the blood of primordial chaos as soon as possible and continue to increase my battle prowess. Otherwise, if I meet the human emperor or Shen Huang again, I'm afraid I won't be so lucky. Yi Chunfeng concealed his aura and hid in a pile of rocks in the ruins of God. He ate several fruits of life to recover his exhausted life force and injuries. Then, he flew toward the place where he had obtained the blood of primordial chaos. With the experience of being chased by the human emperor, Yi Chunfeng was much more careful. With the help of the mysterious hairpin, he completely concealed his aura and flew in the ruins of God. At the same time, another person was being chased. And that person was the Phoenix God, who had a good relationship with Yi Qinfeng and had helped him many times. The one who was chasing after the Phoenix God was the mysterious tree ancestor, who was known as the ancestor of all trees. Originally, the Phoenix God who had stepped into the peak of Nihility God realm had a higher battle prowess than the tree ancestor. However, the Phoenix God had used up almost all of her trump cards and fought with everything she had to kill a terrifying war god of death, obtaining a large amount of celestial origin. However, before she could refine the celestial origin, she was ambushed by the tree ancestor, which further aggravated her injuries. She could only escape with all her might. Phoenix God, I don't want to kill you. If you are willing to share the celestial origin with me and agree to be my Tao companion, I will let you go. The tree ancestor stood on a green cloud and chased after the Phoenix God while speaking in a hoarse voice. Do you think you are worthy of being my Tao companion? The Phoenix God snorted coldly. You should look in the mirror and see what kind of virtue you have. Phoenix God, at our level, do you still place so much importance on your stinky skin? The tree ancestor was unmoved. Be my Tao companion and cultivate with me. Wouldn't it be better for us to explore the true meaning of life together? Tree ancestor, I advise you to give up. Even if I die, I will not be your Tao companion. The Phoenix God gritted her teeth and replied. If her injuries were not so severe, she really wanted to fight the tree ancestor with all her might. Sigh, it is your blessing that I have taken a liking to you. Since you don't cherish it, don't blame me for being ruthless and sucking your blood dry. The tree ancestor said viciously as he controlled the green cloud to continue chasing after the Phoenix God. The Phoenix God's injuries were too severe. As she fled at top speed, she could not suppress the injuries on her body. A large amount of blood spurted out from her mouth. Slowly, the tree ancestor caught up to her. He intertwined with dragon-like ancient vines and whipped the Phoenix God's body across the air, aggravating her injuries. Boom! The Phoenix God, whose clothes were severely damaged, endured tens of thousands of attacks from the ancient vines. She could not take it anymore and fell heavily to the ground, creating a large crater. A large amount of blood spurted out from her mouth. Tree ancestor, do you want these celestial origin? Heavily injured, the Phoenix God took out the celestial origin that she had just risked her life to obtain. She raised her head and swallowed it all. I will not let you get what you want. Phoenix God, why do you have to do this? So what if you drink these celestial origin? The tree ancestor said coldly. After I kill you and refine you alive, these celestial origin and your blood will still belong to me. However, before I kill you, I will let you enjoy it. I will let you experience the wonderful feeling of being a woman. Perhaps you will fall in love with this feeling. As he spoke, a large number of tree roots burst out from the tree ancestor's body. They were like dragons coming out of their caves and pierced towards the Phoenix God. Phoenix divine fire, burn. After swallowing a large amount of celestial origin, the Phoenix God felt that her body was about to explode. She spat out a large amount of Phoenix divine fire with all her might to melt the attacking tree root. Bang! The Phoenix God used all her strength to melt the tree ancestor's tree root. The tree ancestor quickly formed a mysterious giant palm print and ruthlessly imprinted it on her chest, sending her flying hundreds of meters away. After being heavily injured, the Phoenix God could not suppress the eruption of the celestial origin. Her entire body swelled up. Chapter 2188. Yi Qinfeng. Looking at the familiar figure in front of her, the Phoenix God felt as though she was in a dream. It was unreal. One had to know that the divine ruins was incomparably vast. The chances of encountering Yi Qinfeng before death were minuscule. Phoenix God, don't panic. With me around, no one can hurt you. With a thought, Yi Qinfeng summoned the Chaos Avatar and turned it into the Chaos Divine Wood. It extended a large number of 5-colored roots and pierced into the phoenix god's body, forcibly suppressing the erupting power of the celestial origin. Chaotic Divine Wood. This is the complete Chaotic Divine Wood. Seeing the Chaotic Divine Wood summoned by Yi Chunfeng, the tree ancestor's eyes lit up. Although he coveted the phoenix god's beauty, bloodline, and celestial source, all of these were nothing compared to the Chaotic Divine Wood. If he could get the Chaotic Divine Wood, he believed that he could reach the extreme empty god realm and live a few more lives. You are the tree ancestor, the ancestor of all trees. Yi Chunfeng looked coldly at the skinny tree ancestor and said, "You really shouldn't have attacked my friend. If you had done that, you might have been able to live for tens of thousands of years." "Do you mean that I'm dead meat?" The tree ancestor revealed a ferocious smile as all the wrinkles on his face relaxed. "Junior, when this ancestor was roaming the void god world, I'm afraid your grandfather wasn't even born yet. You dare to threaten this ancestor with a little child like you?" As he spoke, the tree ancestor's body grew bigger. Attracted by him, a large number of ancient trees came alive and swarmed over, surrounding Yi Chunfeng and the phoenix god. "I hope you can still laugh later." With a thought, Yi Chunfeng sent the severely injured phoenix god and the primal chaos divine wood into the universe realm. Then, he burned his primordial blood and divine spirit heart, rapidly raising his combat prowess. Although Yi Chunfeng's combat strength had decreased after losing his chaotic celestial body, it was enough to deal with the tree ancestor, who was at the peak of the empty god realm. The tree ancestor's body kept changing. Yi Chunfeng activated the full power of the great desolate body, and his body grew infinitely. He exploded with more than 1 trillion gene of power and attacked the tree ancestor. Yi Chunfeng waved his godstone-like fist and attacked. The tree ancestor immediately controlled a large number of ancient trees to bind him and weaken his combat power. However, Yi Chunfeng's physical body was too terrifying. Before the ancient trees could even touch Yi Chunfeng's body, they were crushed by the surging power in his body. Boom! Yi Chunfeng and the tree ancestor clashed. A force of over 1 trillion kilograms broke into the tree ancestor's body, forcing it back and leaving a deep footprint on the ground. "How can this be? How can your physical strength be so strong?" The tree ancestor had lived for countless years and fought against too many powerful experts. However, when he faced Yi Chunfeng's attack head-on, he realized that Yi Chunfeng's physical strength had reached a level that he could not contend against. He revealed a look of disbelief. "You're surprised by this? You're too ignorant," Yi Chunfeng sneered. His left hand punched out with a fist radiance while his right hand held the myriad origin sword. He activated the supreme sword Dao and attacked the tree ancestor with all his strength, suppressing him in an instant. Dense wood prison. Unable to withstand Yi Chunfeng's ferocious attacks, the tree ancestor was forced to retreat. Thousands of tree roots broke out of his body and formed a prison, trapping Yi Chunfeng. However, under the dual domain power of the Great Desolate Domain and the Sword Domain, the impregnable dense wood prison shattered. The tree ancestor was even forced back a few thousand meters by Yi Chunfeng's Great Desolate Fist, which had merged with the Great Desolate Domain. He landed heavily on the ground, creating a huge crater. "Junior, I'll take your life." The heavily injured tree ancestor roared and spat out a green bead. When the bead appeared in the void, the flow of time in the entire space began to slow down. It slowed down until it almost stopped. This is a divine pearl refined from the divine wood of time. Staring at this pearl that could slow down the flow of time, Yi Chunfeng's eyes immediately lit up. He did not expect the tree ancestor to have such a treasure. "Die. Time stop." The tree ancestor roared and activated the power of the divine pearl of time to the extreme, instantly restricting the time around Yi Chunfeng. "Sorry, but I've already comprehended the 3rd level of time profound." Although the divine pearl of time was powerful, Yi Chunfeng was not affected at all. Seeing the tree ancestor getting closer and closer, Yi Chunfeng threw the myriad origin sword into the air and summoned the even more powerful Sun-Moon Divine Sword. Sun-Moon returned to Void Sword. With a slash of the sword, the still time was instantly shattered. The terrifying sword light was like a falling waterfall, evolving into the sun, moon, and stars, causing nothingness to appear in the space it passed through. No. Sensing the terror of Yi Chunfeng's Sun-Moon return to Void Sword, the tree ancestor fell into deep fear. He continuously spat out divine shields made of ancient wood to defend himself with all his might. However, all of the tree ancestor's efforts were in vain. Even though he had spat out a large portion of the divine wood of time, he was still unable to withstand the attack of the Sun-Moon return to Void Sword. Chi. The tree ancestor's huge body was split open by the Sun-Moon return to Void Sword, leaving a bottomless chasm in the ground. Chaos Divine Wood, devour! After splitting the tree ancestor and injuring his cultivation roots, Yi Chunfeng immediately summoned the Chaos Divine Wood that was suppressing the Phoenix God's body to devour the tree ancestor. The tree ancestor knew that the Chaos Divine Wood could devour everything. When he saw Yi Chunfeng summoning it, he immediately controlled his two broken bodies to escape. However, under the suppression of Yi Chunfeng's dual domains, the tree ancestor's broken body was firmly suppressed. In the end, the Chaos Divine Wood's 5 colored roots broke into the broken body. No, don't kill me. If you are willing to let me go, I am willing to submit to you. The divine power in his body was continuously devoured by the Chaos Divine Wood. The tree ancestor was terrified and kept begging for mercy. It's too late to beg for mercy now. Yi Chunfeng sneered and returned to the universe realm. He went to the side of the Phoenix God, whose body had expanded again and whose consciousness had turned blurry. Using his supreme divine power, he forcefully suppressed the erupting celestial energy source. However, the Phoenix God drank a large amount of celestial energy source at the moment of her death. Even if Yi Chunfeng could help the Phoenix God suppress it, he could not help her refine it. What should I do? As Yi Chunfeng looked at the Phoenix God, whose face was flushed red with pain, he tried to come up with a solution. Let's take a gamble. Maybe that ball of divine fire can let the Phoenix God be reborn. After thinking for a while, Yi Chunfeng summoned the 5-colored divine fire that he had just subdued not long ago and merged it into the Phoenix God's body. The Phoenix God was reborn from fire. When the divine fire entered the Phoenix God's body, it immediately developed an affinity with her and involuntarily merged with the Phoenix divine fire. However, when the two divine fires merged, it ignited the majestic celestial energy source in the Phoenix God's body. Even Yi Chunfeng could not suppress it. A large amount of blood seeped out from the pores of the Phoenix God's body. The immense pain tortured the Phoenix God to the brink of death. Sigh, maybe I can only use that method. Yi Chunfeng knew that if he could not suppress the erupting celestial energy source, the Phoenix God would not be able to save him. In desperation, he could only use a dual method. Xiao Xiong forcefully merged the majestic celestial energy source in the Phoenix God's body into his own body. Whoosh! The Phoenix God's severely damaged clothes were torn apart by Yi Chunfeng, revealing her curvaceous body that was like a peach. She exuded a charming beauty. Chapter 2189. What pure energy! What did the Phoenix God consume? Yi Chunfeng borrowed a pair. When Suemo absorbed the God source that had gone out of control in the Phoenix God's body, he immediately felt the power of the God source. His own power was also increasing rapidly as he continued to absorb the power of the source of God. With Yi Chunfeng's tireless efforts, the power of the God source in the Phoenix God's body decreased gradually. She gradually regained her consciousness. When she discovered that she was naked and had fused with Yi Chunfeng, her charming eyes immediately widened. Her body even produced a trace of resistance as she tried to push Yi Chunfeng away. However, when she felt the condition of her body and the waves of wonderful sensations, she could not help but close her eyes, allowing Yi Chunfeng to work on her body. After some time, the phoenix god's body trembled and the power of the god source in her body finally calmed down. At the same time, the divine fire and the divine fire of the phoenix fused together. The phoenix god's body burned fiercely, burning her flesh. Chunfeng, thank you. I might be going through my last nirvana. Wait for me outside. The phoenix god opened her tired eyes and looked at the man who had saved her life and taken her body at the last moment. She said with a complicated tone, "All right." Yi Chunfeng looked at the phoenix god's graceful face and nodded. He quickly left her body, put on his clothes and left the universe mirror. At that moment, the chaotic divine wood had swallowed the tree ancestor and started its final transformation. It attracted the terrifying spiritual punishment. After the spiritual punishment, the chaotic Dharma power should have reached the peak of the empty God realm. Yi Chunfeng looked at the calamity clouds that were gathering in the sky. He was not worried about the chaotic divine wood. He quickly flew out of the calamity clouds and prepared to refine the God source that he had absorbed to increase his strength. The terrifying calamity clouds covered the sky for a few days and started to descend. They bombarded the chaotic divine wood and the entire space was in chaos. The primal chaos divine wood's divine punishment was far inferior to the extreme divine punishment. Not only was it unable to pose a threat to the primal chaos divine wood, it was constantly being devoured and refined, becoming a great supplement. Seeing that the chaos divine wood was fine, Yi Chunfeng was completely at ease. He focused on refining the divine origin and increasing his strength. That's the chaos divine wood. A chaos divine wood undergoing tribulation. The commotion caused by the chaos divine wood's heavenly tribulation was so great that it attracted the attention of two divine tribe virtual gods with extraordinary auras. Looking at the chaos divine wood that was being bombarded by the divine punishment, the two divine tribe virtual gods' eyes burned with passion. The chaos divine wood was known as the number one divine wood in the universe. If they could subdue a chaos divine wood, it would greatly increase their battle power and foundation. Look, there's someone there. When the virtual god realm almighties of the two heavenly tribes looked around, they found Yi Chunfeng sitting cross-legged in a pile of rocks, cultivating through the chaotic space. It's that Yi Chunfeng. Yi Chunfeng was a thorn in the side of the heavenly tribes. Almost all the divine tribe virtual gods recognized him. Seeing him guarding by the side, the two divine tribe virtual gods immediately confirmed that this chaos divine wood was the one that belonged to Yi Chunfeng. However, the chaos divine wood was too attractive. Moreover, the two of them had obtained a lot of opportunities in the ruins of God and had both stepped into the late stage of the virtual God realm. The two of them discussed through voice transmission and decided to take advantage of the chaos divine wood's heavenly tribulation to kill Yi Chunfeng. After hiding their auras, the two of them passed through the chaotic space, one on the left and one on the right. They quietly approached Yi Chunfeng, who was sitting cross-legged and cultivating. Swish, swish. Two ear-piercing sounds rang out. The two late-stage Nihility God Realm experts raised their speed to the peak in an instant. They held an ancient cauldron burning with flames and an ancient copper bell in their hands as they charged towards Yi Chunfeng. Dual domains suppress. Although the two of them had concealed their auras, Yi Chunfeng had long discovered them with the help of the God-Eater brain. When the sacred cauldron and bronze bell attacked, Yi Chunfeng immediately opened up his dual domains and used the power of the domains to suppress the two supreme treasures. Boom, boom, boom. After being suppressed by the dual domains, the sacred cauldron and bronze bell exploded with shocking power, instantly shattering the dual domains. Yi Chunfeng suffered a backlash from the domains, and large amounts of blood spurted out of his mouth. Supreme Heavenly Tao, Supreme Heavenly Wuji. Using the two supreme treasures obtained from the ruins of God to injure Yi Chunfeng, the two divine tribe virtual god realm almighties were overjoyed. They both used the supreme divine abilities of the divine tribe to attack Yi Chunfeng, wanting to take advantage of this opportunity to kill him. The two of them launched fatal attacks. The sacred cauldron and bronze bell that contained supreme power continued to bombard Yi Chunfeng, directly sealing off all the space he could dodge, making it impossible for him to dodge. Hong Meng blood burn. Yi Chunfeng's pupils constricted. The Hong Meng blood burned fiercely, and his strength rose steadily. In addition to the amplification of the chaotic territory, his strength instantly exceeded 1,000,000,000 gene. Boom! 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 Yi Chunfeng threw out 4 punches in an instant, shattering the space as he attacked the sacred cauldron, bronze bell, and the 2 late ethereal god realm almighties. In an instant, the attacks of the 2 late ethereal god realm almighties were shattered. The terrifying fist radiance was like a falling divine stone, landing heavily on their bodies and sending them flying. If the two of them weren't wearing ethereal god realm battle armors, this punch would have been enough to shatter their physical bodies. Facing Yi Chunfeng's invincible divine fists, the sacred cauldron and bronze bell trembled. They exploded with power that exceeded Yi Chunfeng's imagination, shattering the fist radiance that Yi Chunfeng had thrown out. They continued to attack Yi Chunfeng. The terrifying power forced Yi Chunfeng back a few hundred meters. His fists that were comparable to divine weapons trembled, and large amounts of blood flowed out. What grade of treasure is this? Yi Chunfeng hadn't expected the sacred cauldron and bronze bell to contain such terrifying power that they could actually injure his fist. Yi Chunfeng, your death is here. Seeing that Yi Chunfeng wasn't a match for the 2 treasures, the 2 late ethereal god realm almighties, who were severely injured, quickly appeared beside the sacred cauldron and bronze bell. They spat out a large amount of their life blood into the 2 treasures, activating the supreme power of the 2 treasures as they launched a fatal attack on Yi Chunfeng. Supreme divine weapons, it's actually 2 supreme divine weapons. Feeling the supreme power that erupted from the 2 treasures, Yi Chunfeng knew the true strength of the 2 treasures. Supreme divine weapons and divine weapons of creation were existences that surpassed ethereal god weapons. Judging from the power of these 2 treasures, they should be more terrifying than the divine Jade Sky's Bell of Creation and the Universal Origin Sword. Sun-Moon Divine Sword. The 2 supreme divine weapons released a supreme power that struck fear into the hearts of others. Yi Chunfeng immediately summoned the Sun-Moon Divine Sword and controlled it to grow bigger. It turned into a majestic sword mountain and slashed down. The sword broke the attack of the 2 supreme divine weapons and suppressed them to the ground. What? Seeing the 2 supreme divine weapons being suppressed by the Sun-Moon Divine Sword, the 2 late ethereal god realm almighty's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They knew the power of the 2 supreme divine weapons. It was because of them that the 2 of them dared to take a huge risk to kill Yi Chunfeng. However, they didn't expect Yi Chunfeng to have a treasure that surpassed the 2 supreme divine weapons. Run! At that moment, they couldn't be bothered to retrieve the 2 supreme divine weapons. They quickly burned their blood and used the blood escape to escape. However, under the control of Yi Chunfeng's thoughts, the Chaos Divine Tree that was going through the heavenly tribulation shook its 5-colored treetop and formed a large amount of 5-colored divine light. The 5-colored divine light scattered in space and bombarded the 2 late ethereal god realm almighties, crushing their bodies and killing them on the spot. With the 2 late ethereal god realm almighties dead, the 2 supreme divine weapons immediately became ownerless. Yi Chunfeng quickly spat out a large amount of Hong Meng blood and infused it into the 2 supreme divine weapons. He forcefully made them recognize him as their master and kept them in his body to refine. Chapter 2190. Not bad, not bad. I didn't expect that I wouldn't be killed by the human emperor. Instead, I would have such a harvest. This really matches the saying, one who survives a great disaster is bound to have good fortune in the future. Yi Chunfeng put away the chaos divine wood that had completed its ultimate transformation into his body. Without any further delay, he followed the memories of Supreme Immortal Heaven's soul and headed towards a mysterious grotto. Supreme Immortal Heaven's primordial blood was obtained from a mysterious person in the grotto. We're here. If Supreme Immortal Heaven's memories are correct, the grotto is deep in the mountains. Yi Chunfeng flew at an extremely fast speed for a few days. He flew above a mountain range filled with ancient trees and discovered an extremely well-hidden mysterious grotto. He quickly flew inside. The spirits of the gods have sensed it. Could it be that there is some great opportunity in this grotto? Yi Chunfeng raised his eyebrows, and immediately felt that this mysterious grotto was not simple. He immediately sped up and flew in. When he flew into the mysterious grotto, a faintly discernible shadow appeared. It glanced at Yi Chunfeng's disappearing figure and quickly disappeared into the void. Because the restrictions in the mysterious grotto had been broken by Supreme Immortal Heaven and the dangers had been killed by him, Yi Chunfeng quickly arrived at the end of the grotto with ancient patterns carved into the stone wall. He discovered an ancient jade that was emitting a spiritual light, and on top of the ancient jade sat an old man who had lost his left arm. His entire body was shriveled, and his dried-up hair fell to his chest. He seemed to be completely lifeless. Although the old man's aura was extremely weak, the god-devouring brain that was rapidly deducing could feel the vigorous aura of the primordial blood in his body. What a powerful primordial blood! The level of this person's primordial blood is probably higher than mine. When Yi Chunfeng looked at the one-armed old man from afar, the old man also felt the aura of the primordial blood in Yi Chunfeng's body and opened his eyes. Lucky brat, I didn't expect you to have the primordial blood as well. The one-armed old man suddenly opened his mouth, revealing his stuttering teeth. Did that person tell you about I's existence and told you to kill me? That person is already dead. I found out about Senior's existence from his soul. Yi Chunfeng said indifferently. Dead? The one-armed old man said in surprise. He can be considered a peerless genius, but I didn't expect him to die at your hands. Senior, how can I obtain the primordial blood in your body? Although Yi Chunfeng did not sense any killing intent from the one-armed old man, he was determined to obtain the primordial blood. Only by raising his primordial blood to its peak would he have the opportunity to step into the extreme empty god realm in the shortest time possible. Kill me, and the primordial blood in my body will be yours. The one-armed old man smiled faintly, as if he was not afraid of death. If that's the case, then excuse me. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and instantly merged with his chaos dharma. He burned his primordial blood and heart of God and forcefully raised his combat strength to the peak of the virtual god realm. Wait a minute. While Yi Chunfeng's battle prowess was rising steadily, the one-armed old man's calm face revealed a look of surprise as he suddenly shouted. What? Senior, do you have anything else to say? Yi Chunfeng said coldly as he stared at the old man with the universal sword in his hand. Do you have the heart of God? The one-armed old man secretly sized up Yi Chunfeng and asked. Yes, I do have the heart of God. Yi Chunfeng nodded his head. Then can you show me the heart of God? The one-armed old man's face lit up as he continued to ask. Don't misunderstand. I don't mean to steal the heart of God. I just want to confirm. If you are really the owner of the heart of God, you can go to a place. The one-armed old man continued when he saw that Yi Chunfeng was hesitating. What place? Yi Chunfeng looked at the one-armed old man and asked. A place that everyone wants to go to. The heart of God is the key to opening that place. The one-armed old man said. All right. Although the one-armed old man's words were vague, Yi Chunfeng was still able to capture the important information from his words. With a thought, he summoned the slowly beating heart of God. Lucky kid, I didn't expect you to really have the heart of God. Feeling the sacred aura emitted by the heart of God, the one-armed old man's turbid eyes flashed with a hint of greed. Can you give the heart of God to me so that I can take a good look at it? The one-armed old man shifted his gaze away from the heart of God and slowly asked. No. Yi Chunfeng caught the one-armed old man's gaze and shook his head as he rejected him directly. What? You don't want to know the true secret of the heart of God? That secret is related to whether you can become a god or not, the one-armed old man said patiently. If what you said is true, then you have been guarding this place for countless years to protect that secret, Yi Chunfeng slowly said. In other words, that secret might be in this grotto. Junior, you are indeed a smart person. The one-armed old man smiled. However, smart people usually don't have good endings. Having said that, the one-armed old man's body disappeared before Yi Chunfeng's eyes and launched a fatal attack toward Yi Chunfeng at a speed that exceeded 100 times the speed of light. The one-armed old man's attack was very sudden, but Yi Chunfeng's reaction was faster. He instantly stopped the time around him and forcibly froze the one-armed old man's body. Following that, the heart of God returned to Yi Chunfeng's body. He instantly merged with the desolation domain and blasted out a desolation fist with a strength of over 1 trillion kilograms. It bombarded the one-armed old man at close range. As the fist blasted out, the space in front of the one-armed old man cracked. The terrifying power was enough to destroy stars. Facing the desolate fist, the one-armed old man placed his right hand in front of him and used his palm of flesh to receive it. This palm seemed ordinary, but in the center of the one-armed old man's palm, it nurtured the Tao of heaven and earth, turning into an endless vortex. Boom! As the fist and palm collided, the domineering desolate fist was broken by the one-armed old man's palm. There was no rebounding force in the space at all. Impressive! Yi Chunfeng originally thought that he could easily kill the one-armed old man since the Supreme Divine Heaven could cut off one of his arms. However, after exchanging blows, Yi Chunfeng realized that he was wrong. The one-armed old man's combat strength had far exceeded his imagination. He was almost at the virtual god realm. The Supreme Divine Heaven had probably used some unknown trump card to cut off one of his arms. After taking Yi Chunfeng's punch head-on, the one-armed old man shattered the still space and summoned a battle sword that was entirely black with skull engravings. He slashed toward Yi Chunfeng with a force that could split heaven and earth. It collided intensely with the universal sword that Yi Chunfeng had placed in front of him. Dong! When the two divine weapons collided, there was a strong rebounding force. However, after merging with the chaotic Dharma power, Yi Chunfeng's combat strength had reached the virtual god realm. His physical strength had far surpassed that of the one-armed old man. In this head-on clash, Jian Wushuang had completely gained the upper hand. He stood motionless on the spot while the one-armed old man was forced to retreat. Streams of blood flowed down the handle of the black battle sword. The power of exile, merge with my body and grant me eternity. The one-armed old man stabilized his body and chanted an ancient incantation, following which the seal in the depths of the grotto loosened. Waves of strange power surged in from all directions and merged with the one-armed old man's body, increasing his combat strength. Chapter 2191. The Power of Banishment. You are a prisoner banished by God. Before entering the ancient road of the stars, Yi Wuji had told Yi Chunfeng that there was a special existence in the ruins of God. They were prisoners banished by God, and their strength was terrifying. Back then, Yi Wuji and Shen Yaotian had entered the ruins of God and encountered a prisoner banished by God. If it wasn't for the fact that prisoners banished by God couldn't leave the land of banishment, Yi Wuji and Shen Yaotian might have been killed long ago. After confirming the identity of the one-armed old man, Yi Chunfeng had endless thoughts about this place where the heart of God could sense. He had a feeling that what the one-armed old man said was probably true. He was banished here by God, and the thing he was guarding was definitely not simple. However, Yi Chunfeng wasn't sure if this thing was an opportunity to become a god. I didn't expect you to have such knowledge. The one-armed old man cracked a smile, but at this moment, his old face was filled with killing intent. That means there really is an opportunity to become a god here. Yi Chunfeng purposely tricked the one-armed old man into talking. You talk too much nonsense, the one-armed old man said coldly. A dead man doesn't need to know so much. As he spoke, the one-armed old man, whose strength was increasing steadily, slashed at Yi Chunfeng with his black saber. As the saber slashed down, the terrifying saber light turned into an endless mountain of sabers, directly blocking all the space Yi Chunfeng had to dodge. He could only face it head-on. Dual domain, fuse. Facing a prisoner of God, Yi Chunfeng didn't dare to be careless. He instantly fused the power of the dual domains and used the universal sword to meet the attack with all his strength. Yi Chunfeng used the supreme sword Dao. When the sword light intertwined and shot into the sky and collided with the mountain of sabers, it trembled violently. In the blink of an eye, the sword light filled with universal chi shattered. Supreme God Bell break. The sword chi that soared into the sky was shattered by the sword mountain. Yi Chunfeng immediately summoned the unparalleled divine bell to smash into the sword mountain. He borrowed the unparalleled divine bell's power to break the one-armed old man's attack. Myriad Dragon's technique. The one-armed old man wielded a black saber and knocked back the supreme divine bell with a single slash. He began to activate a supreme divine art, mobilizing the surging power of exile to form a wild dragon that roared wildly as it launched a fatal attack on Yi Chunfeng. The 10,000 wild dragons that the one-armed old man had gathered with the power of banishment were extremely terrifying. Each wild dragon had the combat strength to kill a peak virtual god. Even an ultimate virtual god, Almighty, would not be able to withstand the combined attack of 10,000 wild dragons. Solar Moon returned to Void Sword. Facing the powerful attack of the one-armed old man, Yi Chunfeng immediately summoned the Sun Moon Divine Sword and used the strongest attack he knew. With a slash of the sword, the Divine Sun illuminated the sky and the Divine Moon hung high in the sky. The terrifying power of the sun and moon shattered everything, cutting the roaring dragons into pieces and slashing towards the one-armed old man whose expression changed slightly. Sun Moon Divine Sword, you actually obtained this sword. As a prisoner of God, the one-armed old man knew how terrifying the Sun Moon Divine Sword was. Even with his current combat strength, he did not dare to be hit by the Sun Moon Divine Sword and wanted to dodge immediately. However, the moment he dodged, he realized that 3 identical Yi Chunfeng had suddenly appeared and sealed the space around him, restricting his movements. Then, Yi Chunfeng forcefully stopped the flow of time, not giving him a chance to dodge. The Solar Moon returned to Void Sword. Puss! In the blink of an eye, the Solar Moon returned to Void Sword, which had evolved into the Sun and Moon, slashed the old man's body. The terrifying sword power broke through his body's defense and sent him flying as blood spurted out of his mouth. After injuring the one-armed old man with one sword strike, Yi Chunfeng pressed on. He quickly consumed a faux soul pill and did not care about the exhaustion of his body. He erupted with his strongest strength and threw out the Sun Moon Divine Sword with all his might. At the same time, the 3 mirror images launched a fatal attack on the one-armed old man who had lost control of his body and was falling to the ground. Lightning flash. At the critical moment, the one-armed old man executed a taboo sacred art that was extremely damaging to his body. In an instant, his speed increased by 100 times. The terrifying strength smashed through one of the mirror images, and he dodged the fatal attack of the Solar Moon Divine Sword. Although the one-armed old man managed to dodge the Solar Moon Divine Sword, the one-armed old man executed the taboo sacred art and aggravated his injuries. His aged face turned pale. Yi Chunfeng did not give the old man any chance to catch his breath. He unleashed a force of over 1 trillion gene and controlled the 2 supreme divine artifacts to attack the old man. They engaged in an intense battle in the cave. Both of them possessed the Hong Meng blood, and the divine force in their bodies was inexhaustible. However, as the battle became more intense, the one-armed old man's physical body was at a disadvantage. Coupled with the three mirror images' ferocious attacks with the three empty god artifacts, the one-armed old man's injuries continued to worsen. Equipment manipulation Tao. Taking the opportunity when the one-armed old man's movements were restricted by the three mirror images, Yi Chunfeng summoned the 10 great empty god artifacts and executed the equipment manipulation Tao. He activated the strongest attack of the 10 great empty god artifacts and attacked the one-armed old man. One great empty god artifact might not be a threat to the one-armed old man, but the combined attack of the 10 great empty god artifacts was enough to deal fatal damage to the one-armed old man. Banishing Heavenly Mirror. The one-armed old man had just executed the secret technique, Lightning Flash, and he couldn't use it again for a short period of time. He could only mobilize the powerful banishing force to form the banishing heavenly mirror in front of him and defend against the 10 great empty god artifacts. The strongest attack of the 10 great empty god artifacts could even penetrate a realm. The banishing heavenly mirror couldn't withstand it at all. In the blink of an eye, the heavenly mirror of exile was pierced through by the 4 void god artifacts. The remaining 10 void god artifacts bombarded the one-armed old man's body, shattering his defenses and turning his body into a mess of flesh and blood. Sun Moon Divine Sword / When the heavily injured, one-armed old man fell to the ground, Yi Chunfeng summoned back the Sun Moon Divine Sword that weighed 5 trillion kilograms. His entire body fused with the Sun Moon Divine Sword and manifested a supreme great Tao. One sword slashed through the void and landed on the one-armed old man's body, directly splitting his body in half. Primal Chaos Divine Wood Devour. The one-armed old man didn't die after his body was split apart by the Sun Moon Divine Sword. Just when he was recovering his body with the help of the powerful Grand Mist Blood, the Primal Chaos Avatar broke out of Yi Chunfeng's body and turned into a towering Primal Chaos Divine Wood. It suppressed the old man's body and started devouring his Grand Mist Blood. With half of his body suppressed by the Primal Chaos Divine Wood, the old man sensed the danger of death. He tore open the void and fled to the deepest part of the rock cave to hide. Where do you think you're going? Yi Chunfeng had the opportunity to suppress the old man's body, but he didn't do so. Instead, he followed the old man through the void and arrived at the hidden space of the rock cave. Junior, if you don't kill me, I can tell you how to enter this place. The old man's body came to a smooth, mirror-like jade wall that flowed with a lustrous light. He looked at the approaching Yi Chunfeng, who was brimming with killing intent, and loudly said, "No need." Yi Chunfeng glanced at the mysterious jade wall and felt the spirits of the gods stir. He immediately knew that this place was the greatest opportunity in the rock cave. Moreover, he didn't believe the old man, so he directly rejected him. You rejected me. You will definitely regret it," the old man loudly said. "There is an opportunity to become a god here. If you can obtain it, you will become the god of this universe. Whether or not I can become a god is none of your concern." Yi Chunfeng was unmoved. He coldly said, "Let me send you to the afterlife." As he spoke, Yi Chunfeng wielded the Sun Moon Divine Sword. The Divine Sun and Divine Moon shrouded the entire space as he launched a fatal attack on the old man's tattered body. In the end, he killed the old man and stole his primordial blood. The Primal Chaos Divine Wood also devoured the Grand Mist Blood in the other half of the old man's body. It flew over and fused into Yi Chunfeng's body. Chapter 2192. God's Spirit Heart. After searching for a while, Yi Chunfeng summoned the God Spirit Heart and tried to use it to open the jade wall. There is no reaction. Did he lie to me? Yi Chunfeng summoned the God Spirit Heart but realized that there was no connection between the jade wall and the God Spirit Heart. However, thinking that the greed in the old man's eyes was not faked, Yi Chenfeng felt that he had not found the right method. He sat cross-legged under the jade wall and controlled the God-Eater brain to calculate quickly. He amplified his soul power to the maximum and penetrated the jade wall. Space, a vast space. Slowly, Yi Chenfeng felt a vast space within the jade wall. However, because of the jade wall's obstruction, Yi Chenfeng could not go through the jade wall and enter the mysterious space within the jade wall. I wonder if the God Spirit Heart's blood can open this jade wall? After thinking for a while, Yi Chenfeng cut open the God Spirit Heart that was slowly beating. He squeezed out a large amount of pure gold blood and merged it into the jade wall. Suddenly, the entire surface of the jade wall's flowing light fluctuated violently. Yi Chenfeng clearly felt a terrifying suction force from the jade wall. It sucked his body and the God Spirit Heart into the jade wall. Not long after Yi Chenfeng entered the jade wall, two people appeared outside the jade wall. These two people were Human King and Godslayer. He is gone. This place clearly has that kid's aura. How did he disappear? Looking around, the human emperor's gaze landed on the mysterious jade annulus. Break for me! Human King roared, and the Human King sword appeared on his body. The invincible sword principle evolved and turned into a golden light that slashed at the jade wall. After taking on Human King's sword, the mysterious jade wall did not react at all. When the invincible sword light that could split the sky slashed at the jade wall, it did not even leave a mark. Human King raised his eyebrows and looked surprised. It seems like you are hiding here. Feeling that the jade wall was extraordinary, Human King increased his combat power to the max and attacked the jade wall with Godslayer. However, no matter how the mortal emperor and the Azura attacked, they were unable to break through the jade wall. This made the two of them more and more apprehensive. What kind of secret is hidden in this jade disc? Looking at the impregnable jade annulus, the human emperor felt that the secret hidden within the jade annulus was no small matter. He continued to attack with the Azura. Days passed. Renhuang and the Azura spared no effort in attacking for 3 days and 3 nights, but they were unable to damage the jade annulus at all. Gradually, even with Renhuang's strength, they felt exhausted. How is this possible? What kind of material is this jade disc made of? How can it be so sturdy? Renhuang believed that even Shen Huang would not be able to withstand 3 days and 3 nights of continuous attacks from him. However, this jade annulus was able to withstand it and was not damaged in the slightest. This was enough to show the value of this jade annulus. The human sovereign sat down cross-legged under the jade disc and released his powerful soul power into the jade disc. Through the human sovereign's relentless efforts, his soul passed through the jade disc and discovered the jade disc space. Although his soul could not penetrate into the depths of the jade disc space, he could feel how vast it was. No, I have to find a way to go in. I can't let Yi Chenfeng get the opportunity inside. The human sovereign felt that the jade annulus was extraordinary. He kept thinking of ways to break the jade annulus. However, he did not have the heart of God and could not enter the jade annulus at all. He tried all kinds of methods but failed. Helpless, he could only continue to attack with the Azura, relying on brute force. Very quickly, another 5 days passed. Just as the human sovereign and the Azura were feeling exhausted and had no choice but to give up attacking, a blurry figure suddenly flew out of the jade annulus. Using the invincible Tao will, he held the Sun-Moon Divine Sword and slashed at the Azura. Yi Chenfeng. Seeing Yi Chenfeng suddenly appear, the human sovereign and the Azura's faces changed slightly. They did not expect Yi Chenfeng to launch a sneak attack at this critical moment. Time stop. At this critical moment, the Azura summoned the Time Pearl and forcefully stopped time. However, to Yi Chenfeng, time stop was of no threat at all. He was like a bolt of lightning that left no time to cover one's ears as he streaked across the time stop and split into 3 mirror image doppelgangers. They sealed off the Asura's escape route and slashed at the Asura. Unable to dodge, the Asura spat out blood essence into the Godslayer sword, activating the Godslayer sword's strongest attack. He used all his strength to block the Sun-Moon Divine Sword's attack. However, the Sun-Moon Divine Sword's power was far stronger than the Godslayer sword. With one slash, the Godslayer sword broke. The terrifying sword light directly split the Asura's body, killing him. Retrieve. After killing the Asura, Yi Chunfeng immediately retrieved the Time Pearl and the broken Godslayer sword. His body flashed and he dodged the human sovereign's furious attack. However, the three mirror image doppelgangers were unable to dodge and were shattered by the human sovereign's sword. Yi Chunfeng. Looking at Yi Chunfeng, who could enter and exit the Jade Annulus at will and kill the Asura with one slash, the human sovereign gritted his teeth in hatred. Human sovereign, it's time to settle the grudge between us. When the human sovereign and the Asura had attacked the Jade Annulus with all their might, Yi Chunfeng had been cultivating at the edge of the Jade Annulus, refining the primordial blood. When he realized that the human sovereign and the Asura could not break the Jade Annulus with brute force, a sneak attack flashed through his mind. When he had completely refined the primordial blood and raised his cultivation level to the pinnacle of the Void God realm, he had seized the opportunity to kill the Asura when the human sovereign and the Asura were exhausted. Yi Chunfeng, don't think that you can threaten me just because I'm tired. You are destined to be defeated by me. The human sovereign's eyes narrowed as he released the powerful seal in his body. A terrifying force instantly flowed through his body. Not only did it restore his divine power, but it also greatly increased his combat strength. When the human sovereign borrowed the power of the seal to increase his strength, the Stone of Chaos General appeared beside him. He waved his invincible divine fist and attacked Yi Chunfeng. The Stone of Chaos General that the human sovereign had subdued was terrifying. However, Yi Chunfeng was no longer the same as before. He had merged with the Chaos Dharma power and his combat strength had reached the pinnacle of the Void God realm. His physical strength had exceeded 1.5 trillion jin. After exchanging blows, the Stone of Chaos General was pushed back by Yi Chunfeng's punch. He lost control of his body and kept retreating. Pinnacle of the Void God realm. Sensing the sudden increase in Yi Chunfeng's combat strength, the human emperor revealed a look of surprise. However, he did not slow down his attacks. With the human emperor's sword in his hand, he launched a ferocious attack at Yi Chunfeng, engaging him in a fierce battle. The human sovereign is actually so powerful. Yi Chunfeng thought that he could use this opportunity to kill the human sovereign and get rid of this huge threat. However, after an intense battle, Yi Chunfeng realized that the human sovereign's combat strength was extraordinarily strong. Even if he raised his combat strength to the pinnacle, he could not suppress the human sovereign's ferocious attack. 1. The human sovereign deduced the supreme Tao will to the pinnacle and merged with the human sovereign's sword. In an instant, he slashed out 81 times. Every sword gleam that he slashed out could split the heavens and shatter the stars. Sun and moon to the void sword. Faced with the 81 invincible sword gleams that swept across the heavens, Yi Chunfeng quickly conjured the divine sun and divine moon. He merged all his strength into the sun and moon divine sword and slashed out. Oh no! When Yi Chunfeng broke the human sovereign's attack with his most powerful stance, his sharp senses sensed danger and instinctively wanted to dodge. However, the human sovereign's attack was too strange and his speed was extraordinarily fast. Before Yi Chunfeng could dodge, the human sovereign launched 3 killer moves at Yi Chunfeng consecutively. They bombarded Yi Chunfeng's body fiercely, sending him flying and landing heavily on the ground. Yi Chunfeng die. After severely injuring Yi Chunfeng with one strike, the human sovereign pursued and launched a fierce attack at Yi Chunfeng. You want to kill me? Try again in your next life. The heavily injured Yi Chunfeng did not take the human sovereign's attack head-on. He suppressed his injuries and flew towards the jade disk at an extremely fast speed. Under the human sovereign's furious gaze, he broke into the jade disk and disappeared. Chapter 2193. Shatter for me. Just as he was about to kill Yi Chunfeng, the human emperor was infuriated. He and the Chaos Stone General attacked the jade wall ferociously. But no matter how the human emperor and the Chaos Stone General attacked, they could not damage the jade wall at all. This made the human emperor gnash his teeth in anger, but there was nothing he could do. Yi Chunfeng, if you have the guts, stay inside and don't come out. As long as you dare to show yourself, I swear I will turn you to ashes. The human emperor gnashed his teeth and swore. He sat outside the jade wall with the Chaos Stone General and took out an egg-sized divine pearl that emitted a 7-colored radiance. He raised his head and swallowed it, refining the 7-colored divine pearl and increasing his combat strength. This divine pearl was the peerless opportunity he had obtained from the depths of the Black Swamp after killing the 1,000-headed giant snake. Rumble, the human emperor, stood guard outside the jade wall, refining the 7-colored divine pearl with all his might. An earth-shattering sound reverberated in the sky above the ruins of God. The sound traveled for millions of miles and could be heard in almost every corner of the ruins of God. Looking from afar, in the deepest part of the ruins of God, a 7-colored divine palace suddenly appeared. It suppressed the heavens and earth, and created all kinds of strange phenomena in the sky. What happened? The human emperor, who was in seclusion in the depths of the rock cave, was awakened by the terrifying vibration. He immediately flew out of the rock cave with the Chaos Stone General to investigate. That is, looking at the 7-colored divine palace floating in the deepest part of the ruins of God, the human emperor's eyes lit up. Let's go to the 7-colored divine palace. Although the human emperor wanted to kill Yi Chunfeng, the 7-colored divine palace was more attractive to him. He did not hesitate and immediately flew toward the 7-colored divine palace with the Chaos Stone General, wanting to enter the divine palace as soon as possible. The 7-colored divine palace, my deduction was right. An opportunity to become a god has appeared in the ruins of God this time. Gu Qianqiu, who was wearing a white robe stained with blood, muttered to himself as he looked at the 7-colored divine palace that appeared in the depths of the ruins of God. Old ancestor, you mean that there is an opportunity to become a god in the 7-colored divine palace? Gu Yi raised his eyebrows as he looked at the 7-colored divine palace in the distance and whispered, "The appearance of this rainbow divine palace is very strange. There is a high possibility of this happening inside." Gu Qianqiu nodded. Then, old ancestor, should we go to the Rainbow Divine Palace to try our luck? Becoming a god was the dream of all cultivators. Knowing that there was an opportunity to become a god in the 7-colored Divine Palace, Gu Yi, who had always been indifferent to fame and fortune, revealed a burning expression. "Let's not join in the fun." Qingu Qiu shook his head and said, "Not everyone is qualified to compete for the position of divine god. I didn't think that an empty god would be able to survive after entering the Rainbow Palace. This ancestor, who do you think has the highest chance of becoming a god?" Hearing Gu Qianqiu's words, Gu Yi, who had just broken through to the complete nihility god realm, sighed deeply. "I hope that Yi Wuji can become a god. That way, the ancient race will be able to obtain the greatest reward." Gu Qianqiu said, however, something happened when Yi Wuji was undergoing the 9-9 extreme divine punishment. Perhaps Shen Huang's chances of becoming a god are higher. If Shen Huang becomes a god, what should we do? The ancient race had always stood together with the human race and opposed the celestial race. Once Shen Huang became a god, he would bring a calamity to the ancient race. Surrender. Absolute surrender. Qingu Qiu took a deep breath and said, "Our universe has not had a god for far too long. If a god appears, all the races will surrender. The ancient race is no exception." The appearance of the Rainbow Palace shocked the ruins of God and everyone there. Shen Huang, Tianxian, and the rest came out of seclusion because of the Rainbow Palace. They rushed to the Rainbow Palace immediately, wanting to enter it as soon as possible. As for Tianxian, who was like fire and water with Shen Huang, he had obtained a rare opportunity in the ruins of God. He broke through the bottleneck and reached the empty God realm, gaining the chance to compete for the position of divine God. What happened? Yi Wuji, who had been refining the God source and repairing his divine body, was awakened by the huge commotion caused by the appearance of the Rainbow Palace. Wuji, a Rainbow Palace has appeared in the ruins of God. Many people are rushing there. The God of Life returned to Yi Wuji's place of seclusion and informed him of the situation. The Rainbow Palace. Yi Wuji's expression changed slightly. The opportunity to become a god has appeared. Let's go. Let's go to the Rainbow Palace. Wuji, have you repaired your divine body? Shen Yaotian asked, slightly worried. The appearance of the opportunity to become a god also meant that the final battle was about to take place. Either live or die. I've basically repaired it, Yi Wuji said in a low voice. Without wasting any time, he brought Shen Yaotian and the God of Life and flew to the Rainbow Palace. Yi Wuji and the other two endured the terrifying space pressure. When they arrived at the Rainbow Palace, they found that there were 7 heaven stairs in the Rainbow Palace. If they wanted to enter the Rainbow Palace, they had to pass through the heaven stairs. As for Shen Huang, Ren Huang, and Tianxian, who had arrived early, they had already started to climb the heaven stairs. Every time they climbed the heaven stairs, they would attract a terrifying heaven and earth anomaly that bombarded their bodies. However, the 3 of them had cultivated to the empty God realm. They were extremely powerful. Withstanding the increasingly powerful heaven and earth anomaly, they quickly climbed the heaven stairs and slowly approached the Rainbow Palace. Yaotian Ming wait for me here. If I fail to compete for the position of divine god, immediately take Qingfeng, Yi Ming, and the others and leave this universe. Don't come back. Yi Wuji took a deep breath and looked at the 2 women he loved. He held them in his arms and solemnly reminded them. Wuji, you have to succeed. Yi Wuji's words immediately made the 2 women nervous. Shen Yaotian and the God of Life hugged Yi Wuji tightly, unwilling to let go. They were afraid that this loosening would be forever. I will. Yi Wuji kissed Shen Yaotian and the God of Life deeply. Without further delay, he flew to the heaven stairs and stepped onto the heaven stairs that led to the Rainbow Palace to challenge the power of the Rainbow Palace. The opportunity to become a god must belong to me. When Yi Wuji and the other 3 challenged the heaven stage, a powerful aura appeared under the 7-colored palace. An individual cultivator at the peak of the void god realm, who was wearing a linen robe and had a shriveled body, appeared. He had obtained a great opportunity from the ruins of God. After refining many opportunities, this rogue cultivator had reached the peak empty God realm. He was only half a step away from breaking through to the extreme empty God realm. However, even with his terrifying battle strength, when he stepped onto the heaven stairs, he couldn't withstand the terrifying pressure of the Rainbow Palace. Halfway up, he couldn't take it anymore. His body exploded from the pressure of the Rainbow Palace, turning into a cloud of blood and dying on the spot. The death of a peak empty God realm cultivator while climbing the heaven stairs shocked the other Almighties who wanted to climb the heaven stairs. It made them give up on the idea of challenging the heaven stairs. This made Shen Yaotian and the God of Life worry for Yi Wuji. Wuji, you have to succeed. You have to come back alive. In Shen Yaotian, the God of Life clenched her hands tightly. She looked at Yi Wuji, who was constantly tearing the heaven stairs apart, and prayed in her heart. After about 3 days, the strongest Shen Huang shattered the divine path, heavenly wheel, at the end of the heaven stairs, and was the first to enter the Rainbow Palace. Oh no, Shen Huang has entered the Rainbow Palace. Seeing that Shen Huang was the first to enter the Rainbow Palace, the expressions of Shen Yaotian and the others changed drastically. However, the almighties of the celestials were excited. Chapter 2194. Where is the god's heart taking me? Yi Chunfeng followed the god's heart and flew quickly in the dark space. After flying for an unknown amount of time, he saw traces of green light in front of him. In the center of the green light there was a small pond. There was a green lotus leaf on the pond, and a big frog was lying on the lotus leaf. However, this frog was different from the frogs in the outside world. It only had one eye, and there were purple patterns on its green back. With just a glance, Yi Chunfeng was attracted by the purple patterns on the frog's back. He had never seen such mysterious patterns before. Lucky kid, you actually got the god's heart. I'm a little envious of your luck. At this time, the big frog that was lying lazily on the lotus leaf opened its only eye and spoke in human language. You are looking at the strange frog, Yi Chunfeng asked cautiously. I'm God's messenger, the big frog said loudly. And the god's heart you got is the key left by God in the outside world. Only the person who has this key can enter here and inherit everything of God. You mean there's an opportunity to become a god hidden here? Yi Chunfeng's eyes widened in shock. Yes, there's an opportunity to become a god here, but whether you can get it in the end depends on your ability. The big frog nodded. How can I get the opportunity to become a god? Yi Chunfeng suppressed the excitement in his heart and asked. Bet 3 rounds with me. If you can win, I'll send you to the tomb of the gods. If you lose, I'll eat you. The big frog stuck out its long tongue and licked its face. What do you want to bet with me? Although Yi Chunfeng felt that the big frog's bet was not simple, the opportunity to become a god was right in front of him. He could not give it up. It's very simple. In the first round, I'll compete with you in fishing. In the second round, I'll compete with you in speed. In the third round, I'll compete with you in strength. As long as you win 3 rounds in a row, I'll send you to the tomb of the gods. The frog said, but I won't take advantage of you. Every time you win against me, I'll give you an opportunity. All right, then let's begin. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and agreed. Brat, do you see the pond beneath me? There are a lot of arowana here, and we're competing to catch these arowana. Whoever catches the most arowana in a day will be the winner. Yi Chunfeng glanced at the slightly turbid pond that seemed to contain a world of its own and said, since it's fair, can you let me try first? Sure, you have one chance to experiment. The giant frog nodded and agreed in a straightforward manner. Who? Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and sat cross-legged beside the pond. He used the supreme Tao will to form a fishing line and a fishing hook. He seeped into the pond and controlled the God-Eater brain to quickly deduce. Soon, he discovered that there were huge fish in the pond. They had a dragon's head, a fish's body, and a dragon's tail. However, these fish were not interested in Yi Chunfeng's supreme Tao will. They swam around the hook and did not take the bait at all. Take your time to experiment. Remember to call me when you're ready. The giant frog opened its mouth and yawned before falling into a deep sleep again. What method do I use to catch these arowana? Yi Chunfeng kept thinking of a method, and took out many precious items to use as bait. However, these arowana were not interested in Yi Chunfeng's bait at all. None of them took the bait. Right, the eye of the ancestral dragon. Maybe I can use the eye of the ancestral dragon to lure these arowana. After thinking for a while, Yi Chunfeng suddenly remembered the eye of the ancestral dragon that the dragon god gave him. He forced himself out of his body and placed it on the hook before sinking into the pond. Sensing the aura of the eye of the ancestral dragon, the arowana were immediately attracted and surrounded the eye of the ancestral dragon. Finally, one of the arowana could not resist the temptation of the eye of the ancestral dragon. It opened its mouth and bit the eye of the ancestral dragon. Hooked. When a dragonfish took the bait, Yi Chunfeng immediately used his supreme will to pull the fishing line forcefully. However, the dragonfish's body was too huge, and its strength was incomparably strong. Yi Chunfeng spent a tremendous amount of effort before he managed to catch the dragonfish. Een. The arowana was thrown into the air and immediately let out a deafening dragon roar. It suddenly spat out the eye of the ancestral dragon. It fell into the pond and created a huge splash, waking the giant frog up. How are your preparations? Can we start now? The giant frog opened its only eye and asked loudly when it saw Yi Chunfeng's gloomy face. Wait a little longer. Yi Chunfeng's brows were tightly knitted together. He did not expect the difficulty of catching arowana to be so high. It was not easy to get the arowana to take the bait, but it was even more difficult to get it to land. All right. The giant frog said unhappily, remember to call me when you're ready. Sigh, let's try using the spirit of the gods. Let's see if there's a chance. In order to successfully catch the arowana, other than getting the arowana to take the bait, he also had to knock it out. After pondering for a while, Yi Chunfeng took out the spirit of the gods that was sealed with a powerful seal. He then took out a void god tool long whip and wrapped it around the spirit of the gods. He then slowly sank it into the pond. Release the seal. When the spirit of the gods sank into the pond, Yi Chunfeng immediately released part of the seal on the spirit of the gods. Sensing the aura of the spirit of the gods, the arowana fell into a frenzy. They swarmed toward the spirit of the gods and fought to swallow it. However, when one of the arowana came into contact with the spirit of the gods, it was immediately knocked out. The spirit of the gods works. Sensing the changes in the pond, Yi Chunfeng smiled faintly. He immediately sealed the spirit of the gods and woke up the giant frog from its slumber. I'm ready. Let's start the competition. Oh right, can I use the net to catch the arowana? Yi Chunfeng asked. Use the net? The giant frog opened its only eye wide and said, Are you crazy? You want to use the net to catch the arowana? Just tell me if using the net to catch the arowana counts. Yi Chunfeng said deliberately. All right. Since you don't want to cherish this opportunity, then do as you please. The giant frog said, Using the net to catch the arowana will count, but you have to remember that if you lose, you will become a ghost in my mouth. All right, then let's begin. With that, Yi Chunfeng squeezed out a supreme-grade ancestral artifact net and held it in his hand. All right, let's begin. As it spoke, the giant frog's tongue grew longer and longer, reaching into the pond that had formed its own space. It used its tongue as bait to lure the arowana in. Soon, an arowana bit the giant frog's tongue. Come up. A strange power flowed out of the giant frog's tongue and entered the arawana's body. It instantly numbed the arowana and easily pulled it to the shore. Kid, why aren't you starting? Have you already given up? Yi Chunfeng, who had been looking at it with an indifferent expression, had used only an hour to catch an arowana. The frog opened its mouth and spoke as if Yi Chunfeng was about to become a ghost in its mouth. No, I just want to see your fishing speed. Yi Chunfeng shook his head and said, It's really slow. Chapter 2195. Stubborn brat, I'll make sure you cry when you lose the competition. The giant frog gritted its teeth angrily as it looked at Yi Chunfeng, who was casting the net to catch the arowana. It didn't believe that Yi Chunfeng could catch the arowana, which had the dragon's bloodline, great strength, and extremely high intelligence. Just as it extended its long tongue into the pond to continue fishing, Yi Chunfeng unleashed an earth-shattering power and began to reel in the net. In the next instant, the large frog's single eye almost popped out of its head. It was shocked to discover that Yi Chunfeng had caught 6 gigantic dragonfish in one go. This can't be real. The large frog's tongue trembled. How did he do it? Big Frog, what are you waiting for? Hurry up, you can't beat me at this speed. After successfully catching 6 dragonfish, Yi Chunfeng continued to reel in more dragonfish. Soon, under the large frog's horrified gaze, he reeled in the top-grade ancestral tool net again. This time, the harvest was even greater than the first time. He caught 11 arowana in one go. My God, am I dreaming? How could this be happening? The large frog was going crazy. Just as Yi Chunfeng was about to reel in the net for the third time, the large frog came to its senses and yelled, all right, I won't compete with you anymore. You win the first round. The competition isn't over yet? How can you give up so easily? Perhaps you still have a chance to turn the tide. Yi Chunfeng said with a smile. Hey, why are you so stubborn? Can't you give this god some face? Do you still want this god's reward? Dragonfish were the large frog's food. It was really afraid that Yi Chunfeng would fish for all of the dragonfish in the pond. At that time, it would have no food to eat. All right, let me see what reward you're going to give me. Yi Chunfeng retracted the top-grade ancestral tool net into his universal realm without letting the frog sense the existence of the spirit of the gods. Before I give you the reward, you need to answer a question of mine. The giant frog sized up Yi Chunfeng and realized that he was more difficult to deal with than it had imagined. What is it? Yi Chunfeng kept the 17 precious arowanas into his universe mirror and asked nonchalantly. How did you catch the arowana? The frog asked. When I cast the net just now, I secretly transmitted my voice to the pond and told the arowana that a frog wanted to eat me. Naturally, they ran into the net to help me. Yi Chunfeng was full of nonsense. Are you trying to fool an idiot? The frog said angrily. Do you think this god will believe your explanation? Believe it or not, this is the truth. Yi Chunfeng said with a smile. Kid, don't be so arrogant. I'll definitely swallow you in the next 2 rounds. The frog said through gritted teeth. It opened its mouth and spat out 8 treasures. These treasures are? Yi Chunfeng asked as he looked at the treasures that were sealed with powerful seals. Heaven-seizing supreme pill, God's origin energy, divine source, supreme divine weapon, resurrection pill, creation divine weapon, Hong Meng blood, God's art. The frog introduced them one by one. If you beat me, you can choose one of these treasures. Heaven-seizing supreme pill. Although the 8 treasures summoned by the frog were precious, the heaven-seizing supreme pill was more important to Yi Chunfeng. With the heaven-seizing supreme pill, he had a high chance of stepping into the extreme empty god realm. At that time, he would be able to refine the god's heart. I want the heaven-seizing supreme pill, Yi Chunfeng said without hesitation. All right, this heaven-seizing supreme pill is yours. Although the heaven-seizing supreme pill was precious, it was ordinary in the frog's eyes. It gave the heaven-seizing supreme pill to Yi Chunfeng without hesitation. All right, get ready. Let's begin the second round of the speed competition, the big frog said eagerly. It wanted to defeat Yi Chunfeng in the second round of the competition. I need to refine this heaven-seizing supreme pill before I compete with you. Although the frog did not emit a terrifying aura, Yi Chunfeng knew that it was definitely more terrifying than the human sovereign. He decided to step into the extreme empty god realm first before competing with it in speed. All right, I'll wait for you for a while. The frog opened its mouth and swallowed the 2 arowana into its stomach. It lay on the lotus leaf and fell into a deep sleep. What a terrifying aura! The moment the frog swallowed the arowana, Yi Chunfeng felt how terrifying it was. He knew that it would not be easy to defeat it. Heaven-seizing supreme pill, I'm counting on you. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and swallowed the heaven-seizing supreme pill. He wanted to use the heaven-seizing supreme pill to break through to the extreme empty god realm. Yi Chunfeng had refined the celestial source and the Hong Meng blood. He was only a step away from breaking through to the extreme empty god realm. Now that he had consumed the heaven-seizing supreme pill, his bottleneck immediately loosened. With the help of the heaven-seizing supreme pill, Yi Chunfeng tried to break through to the extreme empty god realm again and again. His aura was also increasing continuously. Rumble. After about 3 days, terrifying calamity clouds appeared above Yi Chunfeng's head. The 9-9 extreme heavenly punishment lit up the dark space and locked onto Yi Chunfeng, who was about to step into the extreme empty God realm. 9-9 extreme heavenly punishment. The frog opened its eyes and looked at the calamity clouds that were getting thicker. It closed its eyes again and went back to sleep. The terrifying 9-9 extreme calamity clouds had been nurtured for 5 days and 5 nights. When they started to descend, they formed the 9-9 extreme heavenly punishment and bombarded Yi Chunfeng's body, trying to destroy him. However, Yi Chunfeng's physical body was too strong and he could withstand the baptism of the 9-9 extreme heavenly punishment. He used the 9-9 extreme heavenly punishment to refine his body and break through to the extreme empty God realm. Noisy, too noisy. When Yi Chunfeng was going through the calamity clouds, the frog was awakened by the terrifying sounds of the 9-9 extreme heavenly punishment and it was infuriated. In the end, it was endlessly enraged, and it ceaselessly grew in size until it was the size of a mountain. It opened its mouth that seemed capable of swallowing the heavens and the earth, and swallowed the tribulation clouds that were revolving at extreme speed and were nurturing the extreme divine punishment. Gulp. Devouring heavenly punishment. Seeing this, Yi Chunfeng could not help but gulp. He did not expect the frog to be so strong that it could swallow the 9-9 extreme heavenly punishment in one gulp. After losing the baptism of the 9-9 extreme heavenly punishment, his opportunity to break through was forcefully interrupted. Hey, are you afraid of losing, so you deliberately broke my heavenly punishment so that I can't break through to the extreme empty God realm? Yi Chunfeng shouted as he looked at the mountain-sized frog that was releasing a terrifying aura. I'm afraid of losing, the frog said angrily. I just don't want to be disturbed by your puny heavenly punishment. As it spoke, the frog opened its mouth and spat out a stream of heavenly punishment at Yi Chunfeng's body. Boom! Yi Chunfeng's entire body was shattered by the giant frog's divine punishment attack. Then, the 5 dragonfish that he had kept in the universe mirror flew out involuntarily. They turned into balls of pure energy and merged with his shattered divine body. After merging with the enormous blood energy of the 5 dragonfish, Yi Chunfeng's shattered body recovered at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. The bottleneck of his cultivation base was broken by the heavenly punishment that the frog spat out. With the bottleneck broken, Yi Chunfeng naturally broke through to the extreme empty God realm. His combat strength increased by a few hundred times and his physical strength reached 500 trillion gene. Alright, kid. I'll give you a month to consolidate your cultivation base. After a month, whether you can consolidate your cultivation base or not, you'll have to compete with me in terms of speed. Seeing Yi Chunfeng's aura skyrocket and breaking through, the giant frog opened its mouth and said, "All right." Yi Chunfeng nodded and agreed. Then, he consumed 2 faux god pills and quickly stabilized his cultivation in the peak faux god realm. Chapter 2196. A month passed by in a flash. After a month of consolidation, Yi Chunfeng had completely consolidated his ultimate virtual god status. His divine body had also evolved to level 2, and his physical strength had increased to 600 trillion kilograms. Big Frog, let's begin the second round of the competition. Yi Chunfeng exhaled and woke up from his cultivation. He looked at the big frog that was sleeping on the lotus leaf. What a rude kid! If it weren't for the heart of God, I would have swallowed you whole for calling me a frog. The big frog said angrily. All right, let's start the competition. Yi Chunfeng looked at the fuming frog and didn't provoke it anymore. Kid, do you see the end of this path? Whoever reaches the end first will win. The big frog opened its mouth and spat out a white light. It opened up a light path that was 100,000 meters long in the dark space. All right, let's begin. Yi Chunfeng summoned the divine orb of time and placed it in his palm as he nodded. Begin. The giant frog opened its mouth and shot out like an arrow from a bow. Time stop. The moment the big frog flew into the air, Yi Chunfeng immediately activated the power of the divine orb of time and merged it with the time rules that he had mastered, forcefully stopping time. After breaking through to ultimate virtual God, Yi Chunfeng could fully utilize the power of the divine orb of time. When the divine orb of time merged with the time rules that he had mastered, it formed a double time stop that froze the big frog in midair. Then, Yi Chunfeng added the time rules to his body and increased his speed to the maximum. He flew to the end of the light path at an extremely fast speed. "Damn kid!" The big frog roared and unleashed a shocking power. It instantly shattered the time stop and chased after Yi Chunfeng at an extremely fast speed. However, under the interference of Yi Chunfeng's time stop, the big frog's speed was greatly affected. In the end, it watched as Yi Chunfeng flew to the end of the light path and lost the second round. "Big frog, I won again." Looking at the angry look in the eyes of the big frog, Yi Chunfeng smiled and said, "Now, shouldn't you fulfill your promise and give me another reward?" You. The frog was so angry that its lungs were about to explode. It could not accept the fact that it had lost to Yi Chunfeng in succession. "What's wrong? Don't tell me you want to go back on your word." The smile on Yi Chunfeng's face grew wider as he looked at the angry frog. The frog held back its anger and spat out the 7 treasures for Yi Chunfeng to pick. "Since you agreed to the bet, you have to accept your loss. Pick one of these 7 treasures." 50 kilograms of celestial origin, divine source energy, resurrection pellet, divine art. Among the 7 treasures, the ones that attracted Yi Chunfeng the most were the 4 treasures. Among them, the value of the God Source was self-evident. 100 kilograms of the God Source was enough for 10 people to have the opportunity to step into the peak of the Nihility God realm. It was the peak of the Nihility God realm. The divine source energy and divine art were equally precious. They would be of great help to Yi Chunfeng. "Frog God, can the resurrection pellet revive the dead?" Yi Chunfeng looked at the resurrection pellet and asked. "As long as there's a strand of soul left, the resurrection pellet can revive him. However, if the soul is destroyed, the resurrection pellet will be useless." The frog was very satisfied with the way Yi Chunfeng addressed it and introduced it in detail. A strand of soul can be revived. After knowing the value of the resurrection pellet, Yi Chunfeng was tempted. However, he remembered that he would be competing with the frog in terms of strength. If he lost, he would be eaten by the frog. In the end, Yi Chunfeng chose the divine source energy and prepared to use it to break through to the peak of the divine body realm. "Brat, have you made your choice?" The frog looked at the hesitant Yi Chunfeng and asked loudly. "I've made my choice. I'll use this divine source energy." Yi Chunfeng reached out and grabbed the divine source energy sealed in a piece of jade. "Brat, are you going to compete with me in terms of strength immediately, or are you going to cultivate for a period of time?" The frog swallowed the remaining 6 treasures and looked at Yi Chunfeng. "Of course I'm going to cultivate for a period of time," Yi Chunfeng said. "Brat, my patience is limited. I can only give you 1 year. After 1 year, you must compete with me in terms of strength." The frog said impatiently. "All right, 1 year is enough." Yi Chunfeng had the divine pearl of time, which could accelerate the flow of time. Therefore, 1 year was enough for him to squander. "I'm going to sleep. I'll definitely beat you up in 1 year." The frog yawned loudly, returned to the lotus leaf, and continued to sleep. Time flow 100 times faster. Yi Chunfeng activated the power of the divine pearl of time and accelerated the flow of time around him by 100 times. He began to absorb the divine source energy and break through to the 3rd firmament of the divine body realm. At the same time, an intense battle broke out in the Rainbow Palace. In order to fight for the opportunity to become a god in the Rainbow Palace, Yi Wuji, Ren Huang, Shen Huang, and Tian Xian fought fiercely. They all wanted to kill each other and take over the Rainbow Palace. However, the four of them were all extremely powerful virtual gods. It was extremely difficult for them to kill each other. Just as the battle between the four reached its climax, another person climbed up the heaven staircase and arrived at the Rainbow Divine Palace. This person was Tai, who had a deep grudge against the human emperor. He had obtained a rare opportunity in the ruins of God and broken through to the virtual god realm. Tai had also broken through Yi Wuji's trap and completely regained his freedom. Human Emperor, give me your life. Thinking of his clan members and family members who had died in the hands of the human emperor, Tai activated the power of the primitive heart and launched a fierce attack on the human emperor. Tianxian, I know you hate me. You hate me for destroying everything you had. However, now is not the time for internal strife. Why don't we join forces and kill Yi Wuji first? Then we can compete fairly for the opportunity to become a god. Yi Wuji, who had the 6 paths, was too much of a threat. Even Shen Huang could not kill him. In order to become a god, he immediately tempted Tianxian. This is between the two of you. It has nothing to do with me. Tianxian was unmoved. He suddenly left the battle and rushed into the depths of the Rainbow Palace at an extremely fast speed. Yi Wuji, when I become a true god, I'll kill you first. Shen Huang would not allow anyone to touch the opportunity to become a god. Seeing Tianxian suddenly fly away, he decisively gave up attacking Yi Wuji and followed closely. The human emperor and Tian, who were fighting fiercely, also gave up fighting when they saw Yi Wuji and the other two fly into the depths of the Rainbow Palace. While the 5 virtual gods were fighting with everything they had to fight for the opportunity to become a god in the Rainbow Palace, Yi Chunfeng, who had cultivated for 100 years in 100 times faster time flow, had refined a large amount of God's origin. He had cultivated to the 4th sky of the divine body realm, and his physical strength had reached 400 trillion pounds. Frog God, we can start now. Although he had not reached the perfected divine body realm, Yi Chunfeng believed that with his current strength, the primitive territory, which had merged with 500 trillion pounds of strength, was enough to shatter the realm. It would not be a problem to fight against the Frog God. Chapter 2197. Frog God, what are the rules of this competition of strength? Yi Chunfeng looked at the confident frog with bloodshot eyes and asked. It's very simple. As long as your strength exceeds mine, you win. If your strength is inferior to mine, then don't blame me for being ruthless when you die. The frog grinned. Before this competition, can you tell me what realm you've reached? Yi Chunfeng looked at the ferocious frog and asked in a low voice. Half-step true god. The frog said without hiding anything. Half-step true god. Yi Chunfeng sucked in a breath of cold air. He didn't expect the frog to be so strong. What? Surprised? The frog curled its lips and said, This god is the servant of God. How can an ant like you compare to me? Then your strength has reached. Yi Chunfeng suddenly felt troubled. 5 trillion jin of strength. The frog said, All right, enough nonsense. Hand over your life. After saying that, the frog's powerful legs suddenly exerted force, and mysterious purple patterns on its back shone in the starry sky. It was like a demonic purple star, and it crashed toward Yi Chunfeng at an extremely fast speed. Hongmeng Bloodline Ignition. Chaos Aspect Fusion. 2 Great Domains Fusion. Yi Chunfeng instantly raised his combat strength to the limit, and his physical strength reached 400 billion jin of strength as he met the frog's fierce collision head-on. Boom! When Yi Chunfeng's fists hit the frog's body, he immediately felt an unimaginable force pour into his arms, causing him to feel pain in his arms. His whole body was constantly pushed back, leaving a deep footprint on the ground. The frog stuck out its long tongue and licked its face as it said arrogantly, Not bad, you actually survived this god's collision. You're not a piece of trash either. If I'm a piece of trash, why did you lose to me twice in a row? Yi Chunfeng smiled and retorted. Arrogant brat, this god will beat you up? The frog shouted angrily. Its thick legs exerted force again, exploding with 5 trillion Jin of force as it charged towards Yi Chunfeng. It wanted to crush Yi Chunfeng's body and kill him. Desolate Fist. Yi Chunfeng immediately activated his great desolate domain and blasted out an incomparably tyrannical punch to meet the giant frog's attack head-on. Pu. After that attack, Yi Chunfeng spat out a large amount of blood from his mouth. His entire body flew out and landed heavily on the ground. Strong. Is this the strength of a half-step true god? Yi Chunfeng, who had broken through to the virtual god realm and merged with the chaotic Dharma, was completely crushed by the giant frog's power. This made him realize how terrifying a half-step true god was. In order to kill Yi Chunfeng, the giant frog didn't give him a chance to catch his breath. It exploded with earth-shattering power and continued to attack Yi Chunfeng ferociously. After being attacked by the giant frog continuously, Yi Chunfeng felt as if he was being hit by a towering mountain again and again. Both of his arms were almost crushed and his body was cracked. Large amounts of blood spurted out from his mouth. He was faintly unable to hold on. Brat, you're too weak. Be obedient and become a dead soul under this god's mouth. The giant frog opened its mouth and spoke in human language ferociously. Sun Moon Divine Sword. At the critical moment, Yi Chunfeng summoned the Sun Moon Godly Sword, which weighed 2.5 million kilograms. He used the Sun Moon Godly Sword and slashed forward. He wanted to use the attack power of the Sun Moon Godly Sword to push back the giant frog. Looking at the Sun Moon Divine Sword with the sun and moon revolving around it, the giant frog didn't dodge. Like a divine stone, it went up and collided with the Sun Moon Divine Sword. Suddenly, streaks of dazzling flames lit up on the giant frog's back that was covered with divine patterns. Yi Chunfeng held the Sun Moon Divine Sword. Although the Sun Moon Divine Sword that he slashed out weakened the giant frog's attack, it couldn't injure it. However, Yi Chunfeng felt a terrifying power pass through the Sun Moon Divine Sword into his arms. It shook his arms so much that he almost lost his grip on the Sun Moon Divine Sword. Whoosh! When Yi Chunfeng forcefully stabilized his out-of-control body, the giant frog's entire body turned into a stream of light and once again collided with the Sun Moon Divine Sword in front of Yi Chunfeng. It almost broke Yi Chunfeng's arm, and the Sun Moon Divine Sword ruthlessly slammed into his chest, sending him flying. Strong, too strong. Yi Chunfeng thought that he would have a chance to defeat the giant frog when he reached the ultimate virtual god level and merged with the Chaos Dharma power that was also at the ultimate virtual god level. However, he realized that he couldn't fight against a half-step true god at all. Yi Chunfeng's physical injuries worsened after being attacked by the giant frog continuously. He couldn't suppress the serious injuries on his body anymore. Brat, obediently become the soul of the dead in this god's mouth. Seeing that Yi Chunfeng was at the end of his rope, the giant frog immediately opened its bloody mouth and wanted to swallow him to wash away the humiliation. You want to eat me? You're still too weak. At this critical moment, Yi Chunfeng took out the most precious spirits of gods that he had and melted them into his broken chest. He borrowed the power of the spirits of gods to withstand the giant frog's fatal attack. Boom! When the giant frog collided with the spirits of gods, an unimaginable power was released from the spirits of gods. It bombarded the giant frog's body and sent it flying tens of thousands of meters away. A large amount of blood flowed out of its cracked mouth. God's true spirit. How do you have the God's true spirit? Looking at the spirits of gods on Yi Chunfeng's chest, the giant frog immediately recognized that it was the god's true spirit formed by the god's energy. A trace of fear appeared in its single eye. It's too late to be afraid now. Seeing the fear in the giant frog's eyes, Yi Chunfeng forcefully merged the spirits of gods into his right fist and attacked the giant frog. Boom! Yi Chunfeng's attack with the spirits of gods was too terrifying. Under the punch, the space shattered and the giant frog was sent flying tens of thousands of meters away. blood gushed out of its mouth. The giant frog was sent flying, and Yi Chunfeng's right arm was also crushed by the explosive power of the spirits of God. Immortal God power. With a thought, Yi Chunfeng used the undying divine power to repair his physical body and reseal the spirits of gods. Frog God, do you still want to continue the competition? Looking at the giant frog lying on the ground with blood flowing out of its mouth, Yi Chunfeng walked over step by step and asked domineeringly. No, no. Although the giant frog found that Yi Chunfeng didn't control the spirits of gods, the power of the spirits of gods was too terrifying. If Yi Chunfeng recklessly controlled the spirits of gods to attack it again, the giant frog felt that it might explode. It had no choice but to submit. Does that mean I passed? Looking at the giant frog that had completely submitted, Yi Chunfeng secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Yes. Although it was unwilling, the giant frog had to compromise in the face of the spirits of gods. All right, give me the resurrection pill and send me to the tomb of the gods. Yi Chunfeng asked for the incomparably precious resurrection pill without hesitation. With this resurrection pill, Yi Chunfeng would have an extra life, and his chances of becoming a god would be greatly increased. All right. The giant frog unwillingly spat out the resurrection pill and handed it to Yi Chunfeng. In the next moment, the giant frog's body continued to grow until it was the size of a small mountain. Lucky kid, jump on my back, and I'll take you to the tomb of the gods. All right. Chapter 2198. Divine Tomb, that's the divine tomb. Through the drifting primal chaos divine energy, Yi Chunfeng discovered a small tomb with a tombstone carved from the primal chaos divine stone. The tombstone emitted the heavenly Tao laws. There were a large number of ancient runes on the tombstone, and Yi Chunfeng found that these ancient runes slowly evolved into a word. God. Frog God, is God dead? Suppressing the shock in his heart, Yi Chunfeng looked at the big frog and asked, God died long ago, otherwise, how could it be your turn to fight for God? The big frog said. Then how did you live for so long? Yi Chunfeng asked in confusion. Because my physique is special, and I have been in a deep sleep, so I live longer than God, the big frog explained. So the opportunity to become a god in the ruins of God is in this divine tomb? Yi Chunfeng said excitedly. He didn't expect that he, who obtained the heart of God, would accidentally find the opportunity to become a god. No, there are two opportunities to become a god in the ruins of God, and this is only one of them. There is another opportunity to become a god elsewhere. The big frog shook its head. Two opportunities to become a god. Could it be that this universe can give birth to two gods? Yi Chunfeng said in surprise. According to the legend in the Void God realm, only one person could become a god in a universe. What, you want to dominate the universe? The big frog rolled its eyes at Yi Chunfeng and said, But you can also dominate the universe, but you have to kill the other god. It is also possible that you will be killed by that god. But you have the god's true spirit, and once you become a god, it is unimaginable. Hey, lucky brat, how did you get the god's true spirit? This is something that normal true gods can't get. Because Yi Chunfeng had the god's true spirit, the big frog's attitude toward Yi Chunfeng was no longer cold, and its tone changed. Because once Yi Chunfeng became a god, he would be its master, and it didn't dare to offend him now. It was given to me by a transcendent god. Yi Chunfeng rolled his eyes and said deliberately, God Chao. Although the frog was a half-step true god, there was an insurmountable gap between it and transcendent. It could be said that transcendent could kill it with a single thought. You know Ace Chao. The big frog couldn't remain calm. I know God Chao's great-granddaughter, so I passed God Chao's test and obtained the spirits of gods. Yi Chunfeng nodded. Why didn't you say so earlier? If you had, I would have made things difficult for you. Because of the existence of the spirit of the gods, the giant frog firmly believed in Yi Chunfeng's words and was even more afraid. Only God Chao could take out such a precious item. and if he really did swallow Yi Chunfeng, it felt that it would not be able to escape death even if it ran to the ends of the earth. All right, Frog God, now is not the time to dwell on this matter. Now, tell me how to obtain the opportunity to become a god. Feeling that his words intimidated the big frog, Yi Chunfeng struck while the iron was hot. Pass God Chow's test, and you will obtain the opportunity to become a god. The big frog said, Now, go to the Chaos Stone tablet and drip a drop of blood into the tablet to accept the test of the Chaos Stone tablet. After passing the test of the Chaos Stone tablet, you will be able to see the Divine Soul. Okay. Yi Chunfeng glanced at the Chaos Stone tablet engraved with mysterious ancient runes and slowly walked over. He squeezed out a drop of blood and fused it with the Chaos Stone tablet. Suddenly, the mysterious runes on the surface of the Chaos Stone tablet seemed to come alive and condensed into a huge divine character that directly broke into Yi Chunfeng's body. In the next moment, Yi Chunfeng felt his life force flowing away like water. No matter how much he evolved his Tao will to the extreme, he couldn't stop his life force from flowing away, let alone retain his lifespan. What kind of test is this? It was Yi Chunfeng's first time encountering such a test. He tried everything to solve it, but he found that it was useless. Slowly, Yi Chunfeng's black hair turned white and his skin began to dry up. The vigorous blood energy in his body continued to decline and his life spirit also began to wither. God-Eater Brain, Chaos Dharma Idol break. As his body became weaker and weaker, Yi Chunfeng immediately controlled the God-Eater Brain to deduce and controlled the Chaos Dharma Idol to protect his life spirit and attack the divine character, but it was still useless. Spirits of the gods, merge. Seeing that Yi Chunfeng's life force was drying up, he began to communicate with the spirits of the gods, wanting to use them to solve the crisis. But no matter how he communicated with the spirits of the gods didn't respond. Soon, Yi Chunfeng's snow-white hair began to fall and his skin started to crack like the bark of an old tree. His entire body became lifeless. No, I won't die. I will become a god. Only by becoming a god can I protect my family, protect my race, and protect the entire universe. My heart is eternal, my body is indestructible. His life was about to be exhausted and Yi Chunfeng had one foot in the gates of hell. But at that moment Yi Chunfeng became calm. He calmly faced all of this and calmly faced the loss of his life. And his determination to pursue the supreme great Tao, his martial arts heart, his beliefs, and everything about him became firm and indestructible at that moment. He tried his best to hold on to an eternal and unchanging belief, treating everything in front of him as an illusion. He watched as his shriveled up and his bloodless arm turned to dust. His legs slowly lost their luster and his body rapidly disintegrated. My heart is eternal, my body is indestructible. Even at the end of his life, Yi Chunfeng's Tao heart was still firm and resolute. It was as if everything in front of him was just a cloud of the past. He had seen through everything, and the only thing that remained unchanged was his Tao heart and his unchanging belief. Yi Chunfeng tried his best to hold on to his belief. His shattered physical body also turned to dust. His internal organs, his bones that were as tough as fortune artifacts, and his chaos aspect were all shattered. Only a lifeless head was left, as well as the belief in his soul. Looking at Yi Chunfeng in the distance, who was only left with a head and no signs of life, the giant frog's single eye didn't reveal any surprise. It was as if all of this was within its expectations. Bang! Not long after, Yi Chunfeng's head and soul were also shattered by the power of the God character. Yi Chunfeng completely disappeared from this space, and this person no longer existed in this world. For a time, the entire space was silent. Everything passed away, but in this silent space, one could vaguely feel an unyielding belief. Very quickly, 3 years had passed. And in these 3 years, great changes had taken place in the seven-colored Divine Palace. Shen Huang, Yi Wuji, Ren Huang, Tianxian, and Tai Yi had all obtained unprecedented opportunities in the seven-colored divine palace. Among them, the luckiest was Ren Huang. He obtained a mysterious pearl and stepped into the half-step true immortal realm, severely injuring Shen Huang, Yi Wuji, Tianxian, and Tai Yi. God, I will definitely become a god. After defeating Yi Wuji, Shen Huang, and the other three, Ren Huang's ambition was fully revealed at this moment. He was like a divine sword from the ancient times. With one slash, he broke through the last temple of the seven-colored divine palace and entered it to fight for the opportunity to become a god. Chapter 2199. Another year passed. When there was only a year left before the ancient starry sky path closed, a change occurred outside the mysterious divine tomb. The chaotic energy floating outside the divine tomb suddenly fused into the divine tombstone, activating the mysterious runes on the tombstone's surface. The entire tombstone slowly turned transparent, and in the depths of the divine tombstone, a vague figure could be seen. It was a faintly discernible figure, like a lonely soul swimming in the starry sky. Success, he really succeeded. Looking at the gradually clear figure, the frog opened its single eye, a complex expression on its face. In 4 years, he has seen through life and death, comprehended the true meaning of the universe, and broken out of his cocoon to be reborn. This boy will definitely become a god. Sensing the life aura within the divine tombstone becoming more and more intense, a large amount of chaotic energy and order laws were constantly reshaping Yi Qinfeng's divine body. The frog knew that Yi Qinfeng had perfectly passed the divine tombstone's test and was qualified to see a divine soul. Sigh, if he becomes a god, he will be my master, and my fate will be under his control. At this thought, the frog sighed faintly. Its body kept changing until it finally turned into a woman in a long green dress. Her skin was so delicate that it looked like it could be broken by the slightest breeze. Strands of immortal splendor flowed around her, giving off an ethereal feeling. Divine light gathered, the great Tao evolved, strange phenomena appeared, and celestial music flowed. Slowly, cracks appeared on the divine tombstone. An incomparably powerful heartbeat sounded from the tombstone, and every beat of the heart could cause the world to resonate. My heart is eternal, my body is indestructible, I will be reborn. Yi Qinfeng was like a phoenix rising from the ashes, fusing the divine tombstone's power with the chaotic energy to complete his rebirth. Junior, you are very outstanding. You have passed the divine tombstone's test and are qualified to see me. Come in. As Yi Qinfeng's body was reshaped and he gradually regained consciousness, a deep and dignified voice sounded in Yi Qinfeng's ears, awakening him from his slumber. Yes. Yi Qinfeng spat out a mouthful of turbid air and slowly stood up. After passing the divine tombstone's test, Yi Qinfeng had perfectly fused with the Chaos Law idol, and his body had reached the pinnacle of the divine body. With the help of the divine tombstone and the Chaos Law idol's power, he had surpassed the pinnacle of the void god realm and reached half-step true god realm. Suddenly, a refreshing fragrance floated into Yi Qinfeng's nose. Yi Qinfeng turned his head, and he saw a woman in a jade-green dress, swaying her sexy waist as she slowly walked over. Although Yi Qinfeng had seen many beauties, when he saw this girl, his eyes couldn't help but light up. Whether it was her appearance or temperament, Yi Qinfeng had never seen anyone like her in his life. Miss, you are? Yi Qinfeng asked in surprise when he saw the mysterious woman. What is it? You forgot about me so quickly? The woman said faintly, making Yi Qinfeng feel like he had been abandoned. Have we met before? Yi Qinfeng looked at the woman's delicate face, but he couldn't remember where he had seen her before. You forgot when you bullied me. The woman blinked her big eyes at Yi Qinfeng and said coquettishly. You really forgot about me. Looking at Yi Qinfeng, who was speechless, the woman continued, I was worried about you for nothing. Are you the frog goddess? Looking at the woman's bitter eyes, Yi Chunfeng caught a familiar aura from her. His eyes suddenly widened as he remembered her identity. Hee, you finally remembered me. The frog goddess smiled flirtatiously and said, "Am I beautiful now? Do you like my current appearance? What are you doing? Isn't it good to be a frog? Why did you change into a woman?" Yi Chunfeng was a little speechless and said, "You know, this appearance doesn't suit you. It's better to change back to your original appearance." "This is my real appearance. I changed into a frog because I thought it was fun," the frog goddess said faintly. "Forget it, it's up to you whether you want to change back to a frog or not. I'm going to the tomb of the god of sin to meet the divine soul." Yi Chunfeng was too lazy to talk nonsense with the frog goddess. He lifted his leg and was about to walk into the tomb of the god of sin. Hey, you don't believe me?" The frog goddess caught up with Yi Chunfeng in a few steps, grabbed his hand and pressed it on her towering jade peaks. "Try it, this is real." Yi Chunfeng didn't enjoy pressing on the frog goddess jade peaks at all. Instead, he felt like he had been electrocuted and instinctively withdrew his hand. "Frog goddess, stop fooling around. Hurry up and change back to your original appearance. This appearance really doesn't suit you." Yi Chunfeng was speechless. He really couldn't connect the frog and the frog goddess together. After saying that, he hurriedly walked through the tomb door that had lost its restriction. He walked into the tomb of the god of sin, which was full of powerful rules and Tao, and walked along a long corridor into the depths of the tomb of the god of sin. Along the way, he found that there were ancient pictures carved on both sides of the corridor. These pictures were all scenes of fierce battles, and the same person appeared in these scenes. This person was tall and straight, wearing golden armor and a crescent moon crown on his head. He was incomparably mighty. He slew evil dragons, trampled the underworld, annihilated gods and demons, and was omnipotent. "He is God and also my former master, Hong." The frog goddess quickly caught up and introduced him faintly. As he walked, Yi Chunfeng found that an incomparably huge stone door appeared in front of him. There were a large number of ancient runes carved on the stone door, and these ancient runes were very mysterious. Even with Yi Chunfeng's eyesight, he had never seen them before. "Frog goddess, how can I open this stone door?" Yi Chunfeng stared at the stone door in front of him and slowly asked. "You have passed the test of the God tombstone and have the qualifications to see God. You should be able to open the stone door directly," the frog goddess said. "Okay, I understand." Yi Chunfeng nodded and walked to the stone door. He pressed his body against the stone door carved with ancient runes and pushed it with all his might. Ka. When Yi Chunfeng erupted with a force of 10 trillion jin and pushed the stone door, chains of laws appeared from all directions and attacked Yi Chunfeng at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yi Chunfeng was unmoved by the attacks of the chains of laws and allowed them to break into his body as he pushed the stone door with all his strength. Ka. The stone door was pushed open, and the chains of laws that broke into Yi Chunfeng's body disappeared. A vast force was released from the stone door. Huff! Taking a deep breath, Yi Chunfeng healed his injuries and walked through the stone door. He saw a handsome man sitting cross-legged in the center of the divine hall carved out of an incomparably large piece of chaos stone. He was not tall and sturdy, but he gave off the impression that he was like a mountain. His eyes were closed, and there was not a trace of life in them. Looking at the man's face, which was exactly the same as the face in the ancient image outside, Yi Chunfeng immediately knew his identity. He was the former ruler of the universe, true God Hong.